panelists or the pitching companies put a tremendous amount of work behind it, as does the Deep Tech Showcase team. So happy to have you with us. We'll talk about what's on the agenda. We're going to talk about a unique program also, which needs to be addressed. Today, we're going to be having 3 companies pitching that are eligible for a very interesting program run by United States Air Force, and so we'll have to touch upon that just briefly. So without further ado, next slide. So Smart Cities, June 17, 2021. A little bit about the showcase. Our position is to connect public sector, corporations, and investors with deep tech startups. Our mission is pretty simple. We want to be part of the success of deep tech startups and deep tech innovation as it reaches market. And of course, in order to do this, we need to improve the connections between, on the one hand, the innovations and the innovators, and on the other hand, the stakeholders, those that enable deep tech to actually come to fruition. And the way we accomplish our mission is through 2 primary activities. One are through the monthly showcase events. The second is from guided introductions, and also looking forward to the very beginning of 2022, our annual summit. Deep Tech Showcase itself is part of an organization called the Deep Tech Group, which includes EU-focused non-dilutive funding from our sister company Arganteal, from our other sister company, our Eagle Point Funding, focusing on US federal grants and R&D contracts for non-life science technologies. And together, we're in a unique position to help discover the best tech that's out there globally, with a strong presence in EU and EU-affiliated countries, as well as in the United States. Our efforts include beyond the showcase and Eagle Point Funding and Arganteal, and includes also studios and strategies, as well as a few other supportive measures in order to help these deep tech startups see market. So jumping into Deep Tech Showcase, we are a business community, which includes, as I mentioned before, innovators and stakeholders. The reason we're focused on deep tech as opposed to any other technology out there is because we know and we believe that deep tech has the ability to solve today's and tomorrow's unsolved challenges. And that is because the unique innovations themselves address them in a dual use market, meaning both for the public sector, something that governments deal with, and which has obviously a dramatic impact as well as dramatic business impact, but also in the private sector. Why we're doing what we're doing? Well, the gate theory says that if you have an injury, the first thing you do is you start rubbing your injury because you don't want to feel the pain. Instead, you want to block the pathways to your mind, to your brain, which are saying there's pain out there. Instead, you try to calm it with a nice patting of your skin or rubbing of your skin to block out the pain. Unfortunately, that works negatively as well. In the world of startups and innovation, meeting stakeholders, stakeholders are inundated with a lot of companies that are looking for money, looking for pilot contracts, looking for partnerships, and their technology is not necessarily what you're looking for as a stakeholder. And therefore, what will happen is it blocks the gate. And what doesn't come through are those innovative startups. And one of the reasons it might not come through is maybe the technology is fantastic, but the UX or the design is not so fantastic. And this is important because in order for deep tech to really reach market, there absolutely needs to be partnerships and capital and contracting vehicles in order to enable these startups to be successful. Our startups fit 3 criteria: deep tech, as the name entails, dual use technology, private and public sector applications of their technology, and these companies have won government funding for their R&D, whether it's US government or other. Our definition of stakeholders splits into 3. Public sector, which could be a federal, a state, or city representatives. This event is going to be pretty heavy on the city, though there are some federal and state also represented here. Major corporations, tech scouts are looking for that next generation technology, either to take on as a customer or to work together with a partnership or on a prime contract, or even for a merger and acquisition, and investors for capital. Our service is split into three things that we do in order to help the companies get ready. The first is from the strategies and studio side, making sure that they understand their market, also and understand how to tailor their pitch, whether they're speaking to government, to investors, or to corporations. Guided introductions. The real truth about the showcase is that it's a network for the stakeholders as much as it is for the innovators. And our job is to understand what the stakeholders are looking for and help them find those tech companies that meet those criteria. And of course, it's to enable with a place to meet through events like these and others. So we run a monthly showcase, which has a unique panel in that the panelists that you will meet today are a mixture of public sector, venture capital and investors, and corporations. And of course, the companies that are pitching are deep tech, typically around Series A plus minus, though some will be at an earlier and some will even be at a later stage. We have a full calendar through to January 2022, including ending with our Deep Tech Summit, which should be a live event in Las Vegas. Our upcoming showcase is focused on energy. So if you're interested in this topic, please be in touch with us sooner rather than later, because July 15th is just right around the corner. There will be 3 topics. As is our custom, there will be an open topic, which will not necessarily be connected to energy, and then followed by 2 energy-specific topics, renewable and alternative energy and supporting systems. So let's meet our panelists and our pitching companies. So for the first session, we're joined by Kenny Visig from Google, Sodi Yoshi from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and from their venture arm, Dana Jensen from the United States Air Force, Tina Tasukawang, sorry for butchering your name, from GCI, Susan Fletcher from Prime Movers Lab, and Cassandra Carruthers from Upheaval Investments. The companies pitching, this will be our shortest panel of the night, are Sereniasat, Datashapes, Arganteal, and Precursor SBC. After that, our second session, we'll have a set of new panelists, Vider Pereira from Zoom Global Smart Cities, Edward Bose, who is from the city of Patterson, Kenny Visig and so will be continuing on, Dominic Papa from Arizona Commerce Authority, and from the city of Mesa, Harry Meyer, and Tyler Svitak from the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. Companies pitching at the event are Waycare, EAC Edge, Unola, Optipulse, VIA, and Spare Devices. And for our final session, we'll be joined by a set of panelists, including Bob Christopher from Diamond Ed Ventures, Reese Schroeder from Allstate Strategic Ventures, Dominic Papa and Harry Meyer will be staying on with us, Adam Weiss from Mobileye, Taylor Ogan from Snowball Capital, Robert Ethier from Activate, from their investment wing, Jeff Errett from Moog Aircraft, Charles Crowfer from Siemens Digital Industry Software, and Edward Bose also will be continuing on with this panel. The companies pitching will be eLink Air, Dodd Incorporation, Target Arm, Cyanic Energy, Cognata, and Robotire. So before we start off, it's something we have to address. So we mentioned before the Deep Tech Group, and we're going to talk about a unique opportunity. There will be a number of companies that are pitching today, which are going to be talking about a program called TACTFI, or Tactical Funding. This is significant because if you're an investor on the board, or for that matter, if you're from United States Air Force, then you should pay special attention to these companies. You can skip over this one. TACFI is a program from Air Force's Ventures. Air Force Ventures are associated with AFWorks, more or less one and the same organization, though different focus, where they offer a funding enhancement program. This is for companies that have won a certain program called AFWorks, and the Air Force Ventures are offering match money for late stage companies that have already won AFWorks to help them bridge between prototype and product, also known as the innovation valley of death. These are companies that already have a sole source contract with a tier 1 customer, namely the United States Air Force in sight. They already have an MOU signed between the stakeholder from the Air Force and the company itself. And we'll go to the next slide to take a little bit more deep look at it. It starts with AFWERX. AFWERX is a program which many of you are probably familiar with, which they run an open topic through the Small Business Innovation Research Program run by the SBA, or Small Business Authority or Association, I always forget. The purpose of this program is to enhance and stimulate the amount of innovation that is coming into the United States Air Force as the United States competes with China, Russia, and other countries across the world to make sure that they're bringing the best technology possible to the warfighter. The Air Force invests in these companies without any sort of dilution. And if all goes well, then it's meant to turn into a contract between the United States Air Force and the innovator. TACFI is there to fill a gap within development. So let's just look at the stages and how it works. First stage starts with applying for AFWERX. You can go to the next slide. The first stage starts with applying to AFWERX. You can click on that one click at a time. The next stage is getting a phase 1, which is $50,000, which is money there for client discovery. Once you get the phase 1, if you can get an MOU signed, that means there's an interested party within the United States Air Force willing to become a customer, and then it's worth $750,000. So at this point, it's already a significant investment of $800,000. Then for many companies, there's a need for commercialization assistance. TACFI, the program we're going to be talking about just for another 2 minutes before we start the presentation, offers up to $1.7 million, between $375,000 and $1.7 million to match a private sector investment. If you bring private sector money to the table, then the Air Force will consider matching that, and then that will enable for delivering from prototype to product with the commercialization assistance. So a total of $3.4 million, or up to $3.4 million, can be had, of which 1.7 million, or half of it, is non-dilutive. Next slide. Eligibility. So a company has to have won AFWERX phase 2, which we just saw on the previous slide, and they need to be more than 90 days into receiving their phase 2. And they also, of course, have to acquire or they have to get a letter of signed intent from an investor that says that they are interested in helping with the match program. Works pretty simply. It's a 1-to-1 match. For every dollar that the private sector investor brings in, AFWERX will match with $1. The funding range, as I mentioned before, is between $375,000 to $1.7 million from the Air Force, and then a match from the investor. What this means for an investor is pretty simple. It's kind of obvious, but I'll state it anyways. You know that your investment is going to be matched, and that's not going to come on expense of your influence over the company or your seat at the board. And that the technology obviously has been pre-vetted, and that there's a very clear need in the public sector market, but also the Air Force, and the nature of the program in AFWERX is they're investing primarily in dual-use technology. So there should be a very large market also in the public sector, and you're going to meet a number of companies like this today. And you'll know the companies as they will present themselves as such. And of course, it gives you an opportunity to invest in a company that already has a tier 1 customer lined up. The catch is, and then that's why it's something that needs to be addressed now, is that the deadline for a letter of intent is June 30th, 2021. Okay, so with that said, let's jump right into the session. What we're going to do is we're going to meet our panelists at the end of the session, and so that we can stay right on time with our sessions. But as we know, the first session and the first set of panelists and companies should get ready. You've all yours. Are we okay there? Yeah, I have a little bit of challenge there. You all can hear us? I think we have Arganteal starting.
Everything's fine. I'm just putting up Arganteal's presentation.
Okay, great, wonderful. So Arganteal should be getting ready. I think we're being joined by Steve Kelly today. So Steve, I'll
Just waiting for the slides.
Wonderful. And you can start by saying, Steve, that Arganteal is one of the companies that is going to be eligible for TAC-FI. And so everything we talked about before is also relevant for Arganteal.
Right. Thank you for explaining that, Josh. And yeah, we are looking for this matching fund situation if somebody's interested. My name is Steve Kelly. The company is Arganteal, and we're about automating DevOps automation. That's confusing on purpose, and I'll sort of explain it, and it will be applicable to smart cities applications as well as many others. Next. What is DevOps first? DevOps is the process of getting application changes into the real operating world. It's a basic software activity that's common to almost every industry segment. Currently, we're doing it with the Air Force. But an example in the banking sector might be the way everybody ran around to get the pandemic relief packages out into the marketplace overnight. Well, there's some development there, but there's a whole lot of DevOps to get it out into the world. And in the smart cities area, I'm sure there are places where you're deploying new or custom software, and that's the same project as all the rest of them. Next. We work with Gartner to position our company and understand where we're going. This is their explanation of where the market sits. Agile development has brought order and sense to the development side of the house, but it hasn't really organized the operational side of the house. And so things tend to get stuck when they go over this wall. Gartner thinks that's about a $6 billion opportunity, and that's precisely where we are focused. Next. So how do we do it? We have a patented compiler that you feed with libraries. The libraries come from lots of places and get perfected basically by the customer using scripts that they have already written before for some other purpose. Once you have those two things perfected, then all you have to do is supply a high-level workflow and project data, and that compiler will generate the automated orchestrated deployment execution scripts. This is the nasty line-by-line commands that are used to put things in the cloud or other platforms, and occupies a tremendous amount of engineering effort each year. So custom libraries can be classified, they can be public or private, and they can be mixed and inform the patented compiler. And those libraries start by reusing the scripts you already have. When this works, we automate DevOps orchestration, not just retrieve and rewrite scripts. Now, next. What does Gartner have to say about this? Well, they really don't see anybody else doing what we're doing. There's lots of automation in this space, but not at this abstraction level. That provides us a competitive position and advantage against all of the incumbents that are there, because starting with the scripts you already have is going to resonate in that marketplace. Everyone else, one way or another, is talking about how to start over to get this job done. And again, it's roughly a $6 billion market. Next. What are the benefits to using it? Well, first, it's the same benefit I mentioned. Starting with the scripts you already have, engineers don't like to change languages. But the next one is these libraries require some extra work to make them more perfect than what you typically run in a single script. And what that does is capture the tribal detail that walks around in the heads of some of your employees. And when they leave, you find out you have a deficit. By focusing on the library approach, you pretty well eliminate that problem. And finally, this is a way to organize fairly large DevOps teams, because your subject matter experts perfect the libraries, and then other people with a little less skill set can use them. Obviously, it eliminates human error with automation, and it is a productivity tool, and the productivity will continue to grow over time as your library grows. Next. Here's our traction. We're working with the Air Force. We had the compiler before we started with the Air Force. The Air Force money is to make ease of use tools around the compiler so that everyone can use it. There's a couple of Air Force contractors who are waiting to use our technology, and we're introducing the first version of the final product this month. In the commercial space, we also are an elite partner with Worldwide Technologies. The reason for that is the level of talent we brought to Worldwide and the potential of our technology and what they're doing. And finally, we've signed a partnership agreement with Polyverse. Polyverse makes Linux servers immune to zero-day threats. There's a lot of Linux servers out there. And so if you're doing one or two, you can do it by hand. But if you're trying to install this capability across 10,000 servers, you need to automate the installation process. And that's what we do for Polyverse and their customers. Next. What does the Air Force say about what we're doing? Arganteal can bridge the gap between legacy processes and modern techniques, can lower the barrier of entry to adopting new technologies, and gee, the libraries are reusable. Same things that we're saying, same things that Gartner's saying. Here's one more. It allows application development to occur in an unclassified environment, and then the classified material is added when the compiler runs. So those configurations stay in the enclave, and this is a big thing for getting uniformity between unclassified and classified settings. Next. So we're looking, this is a matching funds deal. We would like $750,000 to buy 7% of Arganteal. That doesn't have to be spent if the Air Force doesn't match it. And so we need a letter of intent. We will use that about 50-50 for sales and marketing and for additional development of the workflow capability. And that will position us for a Series A in 2022. We are profitable and cash flow positive now, so we're not dependent on that 2022 date, but I think we'll be ready for that. So that's Arganteal. Hopefully now you know what automating DevOps automation means. And if you're interested, please contact us or one of the deep tech people and we'll talk further. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Opening up the floor for questions for Steve Kelly and Arganteal.
Hi, this is Tina from GC Ventures. Question for you around how do you envision the revenue model, and how scalable is this if you apply to one client and you want to move and expand globally and that kind of thing, you know, is it that easily expandable?
Yeah, it'll be taken to market initially through a SaaS model. But rather than building our own SaaS, we really want to use the Azure, AWS, and Ansible marketplaces, Red Hat marketplace, so that we'll have a free trial version on our website, and then you'll go to those marketplaces to buy that. And of course, that gets us really good exposure that we can't really pay for any other way. Bigger corporations, and that's the entry point. Larger organizations will want to have their own version of it, and that will be an annual licensing methodology. Obviously, Air Force is going to want some of their own versions.
Steve, question. Thanks for presenting. When you say their own versions, customizing, since the scripts, sounds like you're script agnostic, what level of customization would be needed?
Oh, the issue will be, yeah, we'll put a version on their site and then we'll maintain it for them. But what's in the library becomes a proprietary situation. Some people are going to want all their libraries proprietary. Some people will share them. Some people will lease some of them from us. So there's another revenue model. But what that library looks like may be proprietary to certain licensees.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I mean, it is to an extent in the SaaS model, but they'll get to where, no, we don't want to see this anywhere out there. So.
Hey, Steve, Cassandra from Upheaval Investments. Just curious if what tech stacks it's compatible across, or if there's any that are currently excluded.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that question. We are platform agnostic and we are language agnostic. So we'll work on any cloud platform, including private ones like VMware and that sort of thing. We may not have all the code to begin with, but the people that want to do that particular platform probably have a big chunk of that code already. And then any language, Puppet, Chef, Terraform, Ansible, SaltStack, Lua. There's the weird thing about this market is there's like Java and Python, 20 languages that people use. And that's our claim to fame, is we are language agnostic and platform agnostic.
Steve, there's a question in the Q&A from Kenneth Fax asking, is it correct to assume that this is ITAR?
It is not yet. How long we can avoid that? We're working with the enterprise services side of the Air Force, so that does not lead us directly to ITAR, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes up down the road.
A little background on ITAR is International Trade Armistice Restrictions, I believe, and it has to do with whether or not material is of a level of standing where it can't be shared outside of the U.S.
And the other thing is I have a feeling some of the libraries will be ITAR, but maybe the product won't.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so thank you very much. Steve, stay on for a little bit and see in the Q&A and also in the chat if there are any questions that relate to you. And thank you for presenting. We're going to move on to our next company. So next up is Clive Cook, CEO and founder of Precursor SBC.
Great. Thanks all. I'm Clive Cook, CEO and co-founder of Precursor SBC. There is an urgent and imminent, potentially catastrophic seismic threat facing many regions of the world. I live on the US West Coast. We're all waiting for the next big one. Despite opinions that nothing can be done, Precursor has a proven solution to prepare for these threats by forecasting the location, magnitude, and time days before a seismic event. Next slide, please. Earthquakes are the costliest and deadliest recurring natural disaster. On a human time scale, months, weeks, days, earthquakes are unforewarned seismic events. Existing solutions provide 20, 10, 25, and 100-year predictions, or a shake warning 30 to 90 seconds after the quake if you're 20 miles away. Neither of these are actionable. Next slide, please. Precursor has taken a novel approach to geospatial event risk, both earthquake risk and space weather event risk, by first defining the problem differently. Precursor is solving the problem of no actionable information prior to a seismic event or earthquake. Addressing this challenge, Precursor has a unique, comprehensive understanding of the established science that causes time-based earthquake phenomena, called earthquake precursors. And then Precursor puts in place a dual-use industrial IoT network of advanced specialized ground sensors and space-based systems, gathering proprietary data sets and using ALML techniques to accomplish forecasting. Next slide, please. Precursor has forecast over 50 seismic events in 5 countries with compelling results. Each pilot program took place over a 12 or 18-month period during which Precursor first baselined the pre-earthquake conditions in specific locations around the world, and then used this knowledge to identify the buildup and changes in energy that always precede an earthquake. The results of these programs showed definitively the ability to forecast the location, magnitude, and time days in advance of the seismic event. The results of these programs provided actionable information. Next, please. Actionable geospatial event information enables accurate forecasting, timely preparedness, and management of short and long-term risks. Initial demand for Precursor's data subscription services will come from private and government large asset owners, commercial, government, and defense organizations, and reinsurers and derivative financial markets covering extraordinary loss. Today, in countries and businesses with industrial infrastructure, old and new, electric grids, pipelines, high performance data communication systems, refineries, chemical plants, warning systems of critical events have often not been built in place, nor have these events been integrated into critical operations. In cities seeking to modernize their infrastructure, many are integrating at the time of construction or retrofitting directly into their smart cities initiatives, advanced warning for both earthquakes in seismically active regions and space weather events. Next slide, please. Precursor has built considerable traction since its early beginnings. We've raised a $2 million convertible round, and we are currently raising a seed equity round. We've successfully completed a number of earthquake forecasting programs and have demonstrated our space weather nowcasting capability for the US military. We have a number of established partnerships with US government agencies, technical partners, and a number of MOUs with commercial reinsurance firms. We're finalizing initiatives in the US, Europe, and the Caribbean for both our earthquake forecasting capability and our space weather nowcasting capability. Next slide, please. Precursor is seeking $5 million in a series seed equity round to advance the company to its next milestone and begin the commercial launch of our data subscription services. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I bet everybody here is a little bit surprised to know that you could know about an earthquake a couple weeks ahead. Pretty crazy. Susan, do you want to start with the first question?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks so much, Josh. And Clive, thanks so much for that presentation. Suzanne Fletcher with Prime Movers Lab. Very curious, Clive, how you think about the sizing of the market, both on the government and then the private side. I saw your calculation in terms of the losses that folks suffer, but how do you think about the relative kind of TAM here?
The TAM, because the capabilities we're giving are unique and first of a kind, the market spaces that we're operating in, we think are analogous first to weather and weather forecasting systems. So as an example, in the US alone, weather forecasting and weather forecasting services are a $15 billion annual industry. Earthquake forecasting we see in the future as being analogous to that and providing equivalent capabilities and services to the private sector, to governments, and so on. So that we certainly think that's a plus $10 billion opportunity. In addition to that, there are a number of opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, in the financial services industry, specifically in insurance and reinsurance, where they are looking to have this capability to both provide an assessment of risk for their policyholders, and then in the reinsurance world, where they are acting as both the insurer of last resort, as well as providing something called insurance-linked securities, which is a very vibrant marketplace for that financial services. You know, that's just a massive market, and we see that as a $5 to $10 billion opportunity for each of all of those capabilities. Sorry about my dog in the background. And then lastly, for the space weather forecasting capability, as the space sector is evolving right now and growing dramatically, commercial satellite operators, private companies that are operating in space, and government organizations that are operating in space need to understand the space environment for their operations and their space situational awareness. In that arena, we think is growing from something around a couple $2 billion today to be at least a $10 billion market going forward. So we think that it's quite a large and diverse market opportunity, TAM, across there. I'm going to go mute just because my dog is going crazy. Sorry.
I think I have a next question. I think it's always very powerful, right? If you have a crystal ball to predict the future, but it's also sort of a two-edged sword. Like, what if it's not accurate, right? Then the customer may suffer consequences as well. So based on what you have today, you said 6 pilots predicting 50 plus seismic events. Is that something like, 50% accuracy, 60%, or is it like 90+% right now?
Our approach does not use a crystal ball or anything like that. This is a data-driven approach, which gathers unique, measurable phenomenon in real time and uses that to accurately determine the magnitude, the location, and time of seismic events as well as space weather events before they happen. In the programs that we've done, both in terms of the 50 seismic events that we forecasted, as well as the space weather events, our accuracy is well over 90%.
Great. And that means that it's based on the sensor, IoT sensor you mentioned that you have to put under or the surface. And with one sensor, what is the amount of coverage, the miles radius that it can report?
We take advantage of 2 key elements in our IoT network. One is a ground-based multi-sensor station, consists of 5 to 12 different sensors that cover a radius of 50 kilometers. And those are put down in a hive configuration around cities, around power plants, around industrial structures are important. And then over top of that, we use multiple satellite-based systems, both private and public systems, to augment the coverage from the ground-based systems. And that gives us a very wide coverage at very minimal cost with very, very high accuracy and efficacy.
Thank you.
Question, Clive. Thank you. Kenny Basai from Google. I didn't see in your partnership mention of USGS. Have you compared your measurements to how USGS collects data and their accuracy?
USGS does not forecast earthquakes. USGS, what it does is provide 25, 50, and 100-year predictions of earthquakes. And it provides what's called a shake warning system 30 to 90 seconds after the quake. They are very, very strong in seismology, and seismology is the measurement of mechanical events, rock rupture and movement. And those events happen over, as I mentioned, 25, 50, 100-year timeframes. So their expertise and their capabilities are not, quite frankly, are not the same as ours. So that's why we are working specifically with various US government agencies to provide this capability, because it brings together a multidisciplinary capability, satellite-based systems, machine learning-based systems and analytics, as well as measuring the electromagnetic phenomenon that always precedes these geospatial events. Those 3 capabilities are not in the mandate, nor are they in the suitcase of skills that USGS has. So we're very different organizations focusing on very different outcomes and analyses.
Okay. And one more question about your space weather. That's a different use case, right? If you have sensors on satellites,
it's the same IoT network. It's just it is a different algorithm. It's a different machine learning algorithm, but it's the same sensors and the same satellite systems. It's a dual use IoT system.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a quick question, Clive, regarding some of the topics you just spoke on. For example, I guess the main question is, how are you training? What are the machine learning algorithms trained on? And a little bit to what you were speaking on with the seismology, I was it makes sense what you just explained. I was initially expecting to see some seismologists on your team, for example, to have that insight, and maybe a bunch of really hardcore machine learning people. I didn't see the team slide very long, so perhaps there already are.
Actually, a couple things. So we have one of the world experts in geophysics, Dr. Pierre Richard Corneli. He's an expert in geophysics and atmospheric physics with a strong background in data analytics. Then Dr. Wilfred LeBlanc is one of the world recognized experts in AI system development, specifically code-excited linear prediction models. And then my background is in high performance machine learning algorithms as well. So we have a very deep background in specifically in machine learning, time-based machine learning. And then we have, as I mentioned, a strong capability in geophysics, not seismology. We're not using the seismic history as a measure of the next earthquake, because it doesn't tell you anything about when the next earthquake is coming. It just tells you that you've had an earthquake and you can attach that to some distribution, and maybe in 25 years or 100 years it'll happen again, but it's not particularly actionable.
Thank you so much, Clive. I'm still in shock that this is not like technology of the future, but something that has already had 50 case studies already under its belt. Pretty impressive stuff. And let your dog know that this is recorded, and so this forever will be famous and placed on YouTube. Moving on to our next presenter, we're joined by John Myers of DataShape. John, the floor is yours.
You're going to launch me here, Josh?
Yes, we're launching right now.
All right, so it's great that we're following this last presentation up, and I live in the Bay Area, so I hope like hell that this works, and I wish you the best of luck. So I'm John Myers. I'm CEO and founder of DataShape. So you can go to the second slide, Josh. And I've been founding and thankfully successfully exiting deep tech companies for about 25 years. The team I have is an exceptional group of engineers, data scientists, and entrepreneurs, and you'll see why that's important shortly. You can go to slide 3. One of the companies that I founded and exited, next slide, please, Josh. One of the companies I founded and exited is Medi Analytics. And what Medi did was exploit a tool called ETL that emerged in the late 90s, early 90s actually, that allowed Medi and other enterprises to pull data out of enterprise silos where just an enormous amount of data was trapped. And ETL is what it was called, extract, transform, load, and that launched today's $180 billion big data business. So what we're doing is following up on that, essentially playing on that same theme. We're introducing ETRL. We added R for reduction, which is a critical need for sensor data. So we're introducing a new capability, which is embedded sensor data transformation on the device without any call to the cloud. And what this extracted data represents is essentially a new class of data. This is really important. So, wow, you're anticipating me now, Josh. Very good. So for the smart city vision to realize its potential, in our view, 2 things need to happen. First of all, inference has to be serverless, efficient, low cost, also has to be auditable and contextualizable, and it has to be performed on the device. There just isn't a practical solution that is cloud only. As good as deep learning is, it can't compete yet with what we can deliver today on the attributes that I just named. But secondly, the more important deliverable that we're going to bring to market is that our inference software automatically transforms sensor data on the source device, again, with no call to the cloud, no added hardware. And it transforms it to computer interpretable data that can be used on any application or platform immediately or anytime in the future. That's big data. And only our software can do this. Next slide, please. So the need for better inference and novel data transformation at the edge extends well beyond smart cities. You can see here that our DoD leaders think they'll fight wars by linking soldiers and commanders to sensor data, but they're never going to do this. Not without us, because they cannot use sensor data that is not computer interpretable in that command room where you see a commander surveying the scene. So DoD must have sensor data transformation on its devices, every single one of them, in order to realize its goals. So next page, please. So what we're doing is introducing embeddable, serverless, intelligent machine learning software that transforms sensor data into a companion stream of structured computer-ready data. It also allows us to perform serverless edge inference with exceptional utility. Next page. So our core technology is complete, it's proven, it's mature, it's patented, it's not a neural net. Rather, it's what we call post-classical machine learning, the first of its kind, a vastly streamlined, productized platform that emulates the best of machine learning, classical machine learning techniques, and eliminates key performance barriers. So for the first time, this, as you can see in those orange boxes, our form of machine learning introduces a data architecture. This is the only machine learning you're going to see today with an embedded data architecture. And much of the exceptional inference performance benefits we deliver are the result of this data architecture. And this data architecture supports our just completely unique big data proposition. Next slide. So you should think of us as a Splunk with an intelligent agent that has benefits. I don't need to get any further into that, but this should be available and you guys can look at it later. Next slide, please. We're a SaaS company with powerful embeddable serverless inference and ETRL, extract, transform, reduce, and load software. The market we address from our point of view is the confluence of IoT, big data, and AI, which together, that's a $500 billion in market. Next slide, please. We're making a market for the company at the platform company level, and we have traction in several applied verticals. I would like to add smart cities to the list of verticals. Next slide. And for smart cities, as we do with other verticals, we'd like to engage with an owner of the problem, in this case, a city perhaps, and their systems integrator to quickly develop and demonstrate a proof of concept. So I welcome anyone who is involved in smart cities to talk to me. In terms of capital, we're self-funded today. Myself and Carl Berg, who's a Silicon Valley legend, we have the ability to continue in the self-funded mode as long as we need to, but in the coming year, we are going to be interested in speaking with venture capitalists, particularly those who could lead an institutional round, which we will participate in significantly. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Questions for John?
John, I'm curious if you could elaborate on just the revenue ramp of the business over the next few years.
So we're building a SaaS platform, and essentially we're modeling ourselves pretty much after Splunk. we're Splunk with benefits if you want to think about that. All right. The analogy, just to play it out, what does Splunk do? Well, they have a passive agent that they have on virtually every server in the world, and they collect data from the servers and they ship it out, and they basically resell the same data they're capturing. They just provide a very valuable convenience. Our SaaS platform will deploy the ETRL software to the devices. We have partners who will work with to do that. We'll collect the data. It'll run through, a toll gate, if you will. And so it's the same tolling model that Splunk uses. Revenue ramp, of course, is dependent on our ability to sell it. This is from our point of view, a strategic technology. So this is why I said that I'm making a market at the platform level. This is a technology that the platform companies should want. I am briefing them now. They're going to be, I imagine they're going to be interested, but not necessarily jumping right through the hoop. And that's why I'm hedging all this by building some applied applications.
Did that answer your question also?
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, can you work with, I was just curious if you can work with all types of unstructured data.
Yeah. Carl, my partner, put 17 million bucks into developing this technology. So it's mature, it's a stack, it's proven in the marketplace, and it's only been used to date against sensor data, cardio, vibrational, video, image, what have you. But there is no reason why this technology can't be used against other unstructured data in NLP and so forth. Any vectorizable data is appropriate to use this form of machine learning in. IP packets, for instance.
Any other questions for John? Wonderful. Thank you very much, John from Data Shapes. John, stay around, see if there are any questions in the chat they need to be answered, and certainly put your information there so anybody who wants to can be in touch with you. And thank you for your presentation. Up next is Tom George from Sereniasat. If you remember in the beginning of the session, we talked about a program called TACFI, Tactical Funding from the Air Force, which is match funding available between private sector and the United States Air Force for mature technology with an Air Force customer. Sereniasat is another such company eligible for the TACFI program. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. I'm Tom George, owner and founder of Sereniasat. I usually begin with my line saying now for something completely different from Monty Python, but I think this crowd, I cannot claim that. It's kind of a very synergistic crowd. So I'd like to talk to you about our company and walk you through a couple of compelling use cases for our exciting remote sensing technology situation. Next slide, please. So we are all familiar with the concept of finding a needle in a haystack, but the reality is much more complex, and it is really about finding the particular needle within a stack of very similar looking needles. We have many different data sources such as satellites, drones, aircraft, and ground-based IoT sensors. And Sereniasat's technology is especially good at analyzing complex information for saving lives, fueling businesses, and making sure that everyone has food on their table. So next slide, please. The first use case is defense and homeland security. And here's an example of Sereniasat's advanced AI and machine learning algorithms successfully finding a single plane flying within a 100 square kilometer multispectral satellite image. For homeland security applications, this would translate to finding a terrorist before that terrorist causes any harm. Well, the reality is that all the data is there to find the terrorist, and our ability to extract actionable information and find the terrorist at the exact geolocation at the right time, as well as distinguishing the terrorist from the civilian standing next to him, is absolutely critical. But if you make a mistake, that is not only an innocent life lost, but also a terrorist loss, which are both terrible outcomes. So next slide, please. The next use case is drastically different, but of the same level of importance, and that is the world of precision or data-driven agriculture. And this is a concept that is only possible in today's reality with incredible amounts of data that can help us with decisions of not only maximizing the harvest yield, but also preventing widespread disease. We can identify crop-specific needs of, say, a corn crop versus a mango crop. In contrast, currently available multispectral data is incapable of distinguishing one crop type from another. With our technology, not only can we discern the different crop types, but we can track their health both in time and space. And we have been doing this successfully with Bayer Crop Science, a leading agricultural products company in the world. Of course, this has tremendous impact on the agricultural industry as a whole and the world in general. So next slide, please. This slide gives you a glimpse of the various kinds of data services that exist currently and have been described by the other speakers. Although satellite data enjoys a nice $7.5 billion market, this is a market that has nothing but room to grow if one compares it against the giant smartphone and internet data markets, which have literally exploded in recent years. The good news is that Saranyasat is in the satellite data industry and positioned correctly in order to capitalize on this very rapidly growing market. Next slide, please. In terms of traction, we have successfully generated significant revenue both in the commercial and government sectors, and within the government, both from NASA and from the US Air Force. Next slide, please. We're not just a data company, we're also a hardware company with a partner developing the actual high-performance edge computing boards that are capable of running a wide variety of sophisticated commercial apps, such as the NV Geospatial Analysis product on which Saranyasat has developed its AI ML algorithms. Next slide, please. What we do different is that we both acquire and analyze H-cube data, or high spatial and temporal resolution hyperspectral imagery. Now, this is a fancy term that means that we are acquiring more layers of information and processing it much more efficiently at a better price point than our competitors. Our competitors either are in the business of analyzing data from third-party sources or acquiring data, but we do both. Next slide, please. With regard to Ask, as Josh mentioned, we are interested in the TAC-5 program that matches investor dollars 1-to-1 for a maximum $1.7 million, and therefore requesting the full $1.7 million from the Air Force that will double your investment for a total of $3.4 million for the company. Now, these funds will allow us to do some early stage research into developing a plan for our unique H-cube data acquisition and analytics satellite constellation, unlocking the potential trillion-dollar satellite data market. Next slide, please. We have a well laid out map of concrete milestones on our path to implementing our ultimate H-cube satellite data constellation. Next slide, please. And as you can see, we have been revenue positive within a year of our founding in 2016 with multiple major contracts and partner organizations. Next slide, please. And although as a company, we are currently very small, we have been fortunate to establish strategic partnerships with multiple major organizations on both our commercial and government contracts on our path to ultimately achieving our vision for a H-cube satellite constellation. So we invite you, therefore, to join us on this exciting journey to create a revolution in satellite data acquisition and exploitation. Thank you again for your time and attention.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Kenny from Google. Question about your technology stack. So you have the data analytics portion. You developed the sensor. With respect to constellation that you mentioned, are you also looking at developing your own CubeSats to launch?
So
or are you partnering with others?
Yeah, we are partnering. So one of our big partners is L3Harris Corporation. They've been in the space business for over 5 decades, and they've also launched recently successful CubeSat missions. So this I have been also at NASA. I was a former NASA manager at Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The problem, if you will, with new space, where most companies like Planet Labs and so on are focusing on 6U type of CubeSats, is that in order to acquire scientific grade data, you need a certain aperture size. And so for that, that then sets the size of your entire spacecraft. And so we are literally talking about a 100-kilogram satellite as opposed to a ton that is currently in, say, Landsat, right? So we have significantly reduced the size of the spacecraft and also thereby the cost of the implementation and the launch. But still, you need a certain minimum size in order to achieve the H-cube capability, which is 10-meter ground resolution, daily revisits, and hyperspectral across 400 bands. So that is the kind of data we will be needing for multiple business verticals that take advantage of satellite remote sensing data.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom, can you comment on the use of fund? What is the milestone that you hope to achieve after this 3.4 million investment?
Right. Thank you. Even though, as you probably know, space is quite expensive, and traditionally, Landsat class data satellites have cost almost about $1 billion each to launch, right? And so what we are proposing to do is to bring about a constellation of satellites, and this would be 15 satellites, acquiring our H-cube data at 100 kilograms and this would be in the range of about $30 million a pop. So we are ultimately, when the entire constellation is implemented, that would be about $500 million for CapEx alone, right? So in order to orchestrate such a complex mission, one needs to come together in terms of both all the teaming arrangements that have to be in place, the consumers of the data, what kinds of data are going to be acquired, how the onboard processing is going to occur, because our big emphasis is on high performance edge computing, because the traditional paradigm in the Earth observation satellites has been to downlink all of the L0, level 0 data, or as acquired data from the instruments down to the ground and have it processed on the ground in terrestrial computers, because computing capability did not exist until now in space for high performance computing at the edge. So that's the revolution that we plan to get, so that we can then reduce the latency of getting the actionable information in the hands of the decision makers to within 24 hours of acquisition, which is unheard of in the space business.
Hey, so there's one question.
Sorry,
there's one question from Han Ko in the chat. He says you have very impressive tech, and thank you for the presentation. They want to know what the development status is for the hardware board and functionality.
The hardware board is fully developed. It's currently going to be flown on a satellite later part of this month. So it's at what we would call in NASA terms TRL-9. So the board is ready. The basic technology elements, hardware and software, are also ready. So in terms of major risks, there aren't any major technological risks. It is more about the risk of putting together the entire system, making sure that the system works seamlessly and it's validated.
Who will you be selling the data to, or who will be your direct customers?
So right now we are a B2B company, and we work with large companies. For example, for the agricultural use case, we'll be working with Bayer Crop Science and using their channels for dissemination to their end customers, which would be growers and so on. As you know, agriculture is not just a simple business of a farmer growing crops. It's an entire ecosystem that consists of crop insurance companies, crop financial companies, and all of them need early warning data. And that is something that we plan to provide through the onboard computing.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Tom George from Serenasat. Also looking for TAC-5 funding together with the United States Air Force. Great presentation, great technology, and happy to have you with us today.
Thank you very much.
We're going to just spend a few more minutes before we jump into our next panel. Because of the introductions and the presentation at the very beginning, I wanted to get straight into the presentation. But for the last 45, 50 minutes, we've been hearing from great questions from our panel. And now's the opportunity to just to get to know you a little bit. Starting with a question. Question would be, what makes you jump and say that you would like to engage with a company? And if we could, do a round table. And then if it's relevant, also talk about what your process typically is. So, Reese, if you want to start us off.
Sure. Put me on the
first.
Yeah, go ahead. You know, what I look for, the first thing being a strategic investor is strategic relevance. You know, so I'm trying to understand as I'm hearing the pitch, you know, does this, you know, really fit into Allstate's strategic framework? And if the answer is yes, the process is as quickly as possible. You know, try to get a deck into the hands of the relevant business, try to get a meeting set up. And, you know, if we can, you know, if we can continue to get positive feedback from there, oftentimes if it's a nearer term opportunity, we'll go into a full POC in parallel with due diligence. And anyway, long story, you know, I think short rather than getting into all the steps of the process, but, you know, when we have good strategic connection, our process generally can take about, I would say, about 3 months on average from meeting to being able to get something done. If it takes time to really develop the strategic relevance within Allstate, it's going to take longer.
No, it's surprising from a major corporation like Allstate.
As far as the speed.
Yeah, I would think that you know, the bigger the organization, the larger the onboarding is. But 3 months is not that long.
No, 3 months, like I said, and that's predicated on, you know, really quickly establishing the strategic side of it. If we can't, or it takes us, you know, multiple iterations, that's where it can get quite a bit longer, to be honest. But when everything is aligned, it can move, you know, much quicker.
Thank you for that. Susan, I think you were next in line.
Yeah, thanks so much, Josh. So at Prime Movers Lab, we lead seed through Series B rounds. We've got $1 billion under management. And for us, it all starts with, is there a breakthrough scientific core of what's being done? And that's kind of a yes, no answer. Our interests lie both thesis driven across transportation, infrastructure, manufacturing, ag, a lot of the things we talked about today, energy, and then also opportunistic, kind of what comes from our network, but the ability to kind of blend those two things. As a lead investor, we will try to do things layer by layer in terms of getting to know an entrepreneur and taking up his or her time. But we kind of phase gate it, stage 1, stage 2, deep dive. We looked at 3,600 companies last year. So try to be thoughtful with that process. But for us, you know, everything has to align with kind of 4 basic pillars, which is the team being kind of right for the problem, the technology being breakthrough and having a high IP moat around it, what's being built. The business kind of being a large enough market, making sense, the business model, early signs of traction, and then the deal or kind of the investment terms itself kind of all need to line up. That's the basic framework that we use.
Awesome, perfect, thank you very much. So that was Susan Fletcher from Prime Movers Labs. Ken, do you want to go next?
Sure, thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invite, participating here. Kenny from Google, and just that's my recent experience for the past year. I mean, Google Cloud Platform. Prior to that, I was at NASA for over 20 plus years, just like Tom. And so my background is science and technology, deep tech that can really have global scale impact. At Google, for example, we're launched the accelerator that is actually currently going on and is focused on climate change. So those kind of issues that if you have a product technology that can impact at that scale, address one of the biggest challenges that our planet is facing, that's an area that excites me, and I'll be happy to connect you with our venture team as well. And in general, again, there's several issues or challenges that I think I see several of these companies here are addressing. The earthquake prediction, I think that was a great example that can have global impact as well. So that's what interests me, and looking forward to hear other presentations.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Tina.
Hi, everyone. Tina from GC Ventures America. We are the corporate ventures arm of PTT Global Chemicals, who is a material company. So for us, the way we look at investment, I think the approach is similar to what Reese mentioned. As a corporate ventures arm, we look for synergy as number one. And if we can see very strong synergistic linkage to our business or investment thesis in advanced manufacturing, clean tech, climate change, advanced materials, synbio, life science, I think that's the area that we really want to establish a strong connection and get to know the company more. And then as we go in the deeper layers, then we are looking at team, market, technologies, and strong traction. We also want to make sure that what they are developing is not just another science project, but it is something that has a strong potential use case that could really disrupt the market that's out there.
Thank you for that, Tina. Thank you very much. Cassandra. Nice to see you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Really enjoyed the pitches. Cassandra from Upheaval Investments. We're an early stage generalist deep tech and frontier tech fund headquartered in Chicago. We participate from pre-seed through Series B. We're spun out of a family office. So with companies that we really like to start relationships early, continue to follow on with conviction, and then the family office connection allows us really great flexibility in terms of both timelines and later stage creative financing, supporting with exit, et cetera. So we're certainly not afraid of big audacious ideas. We invest in hardware, software, pretty much across the board, from aerospace and robotics through to next gen compute, AI, machine learning, big data. We really care, of course, deeply about technology. We love breakthrough ID, excited about novel lab spin out ideas, all the way through to elegant combinations of existing technology. So it doesn't have to have 30 patents, but we look at a lot of that stuff, probably not pure science experiments either. Team, of course, is very important for us as well. If it's breakthrough, obviously we look for teams that are scientifically or technically strong. But regarding market size, we are looking for massive markets, fundamentally transformative opportunities that are working directly backwards from a problem, is what is really our driving North Star.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Last but not least, Soda Yoshi from Mitsubishi.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Soda from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries is one of the largest industrial manufacturer in Japan, and we have more than 500 products such as power plant, rockets, and ships. And now we are looking at some opportunities in expand our business or technologies. And so we have interested in clean tech, mobility, and of course, advanced manufacturing technologies or materials, or AI, IoT. So I think we have a lot of potential opportunities to collaborate with you. So I'm happy to discuss with you how can we collaborate with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all of our panelists that joined today. Thank you for our companies that pitch: Sharaniasat, Incorporated, DataShapes, Arganteal, and Precursor SBC. We have 12 companies ahead. 6 are going to be related to our connectivity topic on smart cities, and 6 after that on mobility. So without further ado, for our next panel, we're joined, Kenny staying on with us is Soda, and all the other panelists are also welcome to stay on and to ask questions. We're also joined from Zoom Global Smart Cities, Vider Pereira, Edward Bose from City of Patterson, Dominic Papa from Arizona Commerce Authority, from the City of Mesa, Harry Meyer, and Tyler Sweetdock from Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. We're going to be hearing from Waycare, EAC Edge, OptiPulse Incorporated, VIA, and Spare Devices. So anybody who wasn't before, we are also going to be hearing today from this session from one company, namely VIA, which is not only eligible for the TACFI funding program with match funds from the United States Air Force, but has already applied to it. So also relevant for this session as well. So first up, who do we have? From Rafael Atias. Do we have Rafael on the line? Or is it Lewis who's giving it over?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah.
We
Hi,
can hear.
everyone. So just to make sure I have 5 minutes, right?
Correct. Hold on just 1 second while I get the slides queued.
Perfect, thank you. So hello everyone, and thanks for me being here today. I will introduce you to Uneol. You will guess to my accent and to our name that we are a French company. If you can go to the second slide, please. I will start with a small observation. This is how people currently produce renewable energy in the world. We decided at Uneol to combine those energy sources and their advantages to create a new market. So if you can go to slide 3, these are the texts we use to get where we are today, and we are able to determine the best cities and buildings in the world in terms of wind potential. Next slide, please. This is the wind turbine we developed. It is the lowest carbon energy production solution in the world, less than the nuclear energy. And next slide, please. We came up with this concept. We call it the mixed energy platform. It can be installed on every flat building. We can produce more energy, and we protect the building from the UVs. It is like a new business model for the landlords and the real estate owners. You can go to the next slide, please. This is what it looks like in real life. You have to imagine that on the top of a building and duplicate it. Next slide, please. Thank you. These are some steps we followed, but we are going to really develop this product in the world and to make it globalized. Thank you for the next slide. Here are some logos of our customers and partners, but among them are the French government and ministries. Thank you for going to the next slide. I will end my presentation with some numbers, but what we are looking for today is to get in touch with a new network related to governments in order to get in touch with the best wind potential spaces in the world. We are also looking for funds to auto-finance our installation of platforms on the best buildings and to create a new business model for us and to go from a manufacturer status to a global energy producer status. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Opening up questions to our panel for Louis. I need brave people to ask a question. Go ahead.
One question I have is, what's kind of the business model here? Are you selling directly to utilities? Are you building your own wind projects that you know, and then sell the energy through power purchase agreements, or what's the business model?
For the moment, we sell our products, but yeah, the final business model we want is to build to finance our own platforms, sell it for free or give it for free to the landlords, and sell the energy back to the landlords 20 or 25% less than the market, and also gain revenues from the maintenance of it. So we will own the last floor of the buildings, which is like a cost item for every building, and we want to make it a profit.
We have a question coming in from the chat. How much power in watts is produced by your solution per square meter? What's your solution efficiency?
It depends on where we install our product, of course, but we produce more kilowatts hours per square meters than the photovoltaic only. We can produce with one wind turbine 5 times more energy per square meter by comparison to only a photovoltaic panel, but we combine these two. Solar panels will only produce during daylight and mainly in summer. We come from France, and the wind turbines will produce by night and during winter. So every product, electric product, is being sourced with power every 24/7.
Wonderful. Another question from the chat from Saul Cates from Thales is wondering if you have spoken to Thales yet.
We have an employee that has been working with Thales before, yes.
Wonderful. There was another question from the chat. I think it's from Kenneth asking, are there any existing contracts for your company?
Contracts sorry?
Yes, contracts. Are you already already engaged in contracts with?
Yes, we have contracts with the French ministries. We have contracts with suppliers like global ones like Lidl. We have contracts with landlords and real estate owners. And we are looking for developing our company worldwide.
Wonderful. One last question from the chat. Tina, who was an investor who participated in the previous session, asked, how long is the break-even period for this type of wind turbine, given a very different geometry from the incumbent? So again, how long is the break-even period for this wind turbine?
I didn't understand the question, sorry. My English is quite poor.
No, your English is fine. I think the meaning behind it is how long does it take from
profit?
From deploy, yeah, exactly, to get to profit from deploying the
depends on the site, of course, depends on the wind, but it's between 8 and 12 years on the quite medium spots, without any subventions from the government that in France, they are really pushing for this kind of solution. So we can go from 8 to 12 years to 3 to 4 years.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
Yes, one question, Kenny from Google. Is your hardware manufacturing done with a partner in France?
We produce our own wind turbines.
Okay, because I only saw 6 people on the company. I wasn't sure if is that all 6 of you doing that, or is it?
We are doing it. I'm an engineer, but I also work with my hands, and we are looking for new partners for the manufacturing part, of course. But yeah, today we are an engineering office and also a manufacturer.
So a partner would help you with scalability if you're going global.
Yes.
אמור לדבר ב-10:10, עד 10:20. רוצה שאני אדבר מפה?
I think we have somebody else to unmute their mic. So one more thing, I think that pretty much wraps it up for Louis. As fantastic technology. If you want to be in touch with Louis, Louis, please put your information in the chat.
Yes.
And I think before we jump on to the next, we always like to start off at 100 miles per hour. And so that's a great example, and it's great technology to start for our second session on connectivity. Before we get jumping into the next company and hearing about the next innovation, just a moment to get to know who our panelists are today. So today we're joined for this session for smart connectivity by Edward Bose. I believe Vider is not here yet. He'll be joining shortly. By Kenny Basig from Google, Sodi Yoshi from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Dominic Papa from Arizona Commerce Authority, and Harry Meyer from City of Mesa, and Tyler Svitak from Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. So we'll do a quick round session if you're okay. Just we'll keep it under a minute per person. Tell us something that you're looking for today. What, obviously not the specific technology, but something that you're looking for and what it'll enable for you internally or for the organization you represent. If we could start, maybe we'll start with Harry.
Sure. Hi, I'm Harry Meyer. I'm a deputy CIO for the city of Mesa, Arizona. And what we're looking for is those solutions that really speak to smart cities and the desires and needs of the residents and community around us within the city. So urban solutions, things that address up and coming challenges to our community.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Next up, how about Tyler? Learn a little bit about the organization that you represent as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and hi, Louis. My name is Tyler Svitak. I'm the executive director of the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we work with about 30 governments throughout the state of Colorado that have an interest in engaging with companies like we're hearing from today. So we are essentially interested in finding companies with solutions that can meet needs that are shared across cities here in Colorado, and that we think we can help, because we want to see more technologies deployed here and more companies locate here as well if you're looking to grow and expand.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So we have Edward on the line as well. Edward's here. Okay, I think Edward's also late in joining. Let's start with Dominic Papa.
Everyone, Dominic Papa. I'm the Vice President for the Smart State Initiatives at the Arizona Commerce Authority. So we're the state's economic development organization. So we run the economic development policy and programs for our Governor Ducey. Just echoing off Tyler and Harry, I'm interested in the technologies that Harry's interested in, and then helping those companies relocate to Arizona from the economic development standpoint. So it's a good 1-2 punch.
Wonderful. So we heard from Kenny also beforehand, but Kenny, maybe just reintroduce yourself.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Josh. I'm Kenny Basai from Google. I'm in the Google Cloud Platform. And my interests are technology solutions that have global impact and global scale. So climate change is area I'm interested in, and any other solutions that, again, can address difficult problems by applying smart technologies and scientific implementation.
Fantastic. Sodi Yoshi from Mitsubishi.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Sota from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries is one of the largest industrial manufacturer in Japan, and we have a lot of products such as power plants brand or ship or rockets. And we have more than 500 products totally. So we have a lot of potential opportunities working with you. So I'm happy to discuss with how can we collaborate with you. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Also, continuing on from the previous panel, we have Reed Schroeder from Allstate.
Hi, Reed Schroeder here. I'm with Allstate. We are the corporate venture capital arm of Allstate Corporation. And I'm looking for, something that's going to really fill a key gap or a white space with one of our businesses. Our businesses are home, auto, digital identity protection. So that's what I'm always looking for is something that really seems unique and differentiated and will fill a gap for one of our businesses.
Wonderful. And lastly, not least, Cassandra Carruthers from Upheaval Investments, also continuing on from the previous panel.
Yeah, thanks for keeping me on, Josh. We're early stage generalist deep tech looking at hardware and software across aerospace, robotics, advanced materials through to computing and everything in between. We're spun out of a family office, so we look forward to companies solving major problems with breakthrough technology, a clear path to commercialization, and supporting those for the very long term.
Awesome, awesome. So now we know the panelists a little bit, we can continue on with the event. Next up is Chip Venters from EAC Edge. Chip, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry, I had remuted you. Okay, how's everybody doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So our focus at Equal Access Carriers, EAC, is 5G edge computing at wireless towers. And we are at this presentation because we believe that this is essential infrastructure for smart cities management and change. The core infrastructure for IoT sensor management is already here. It's wireless towers with 5G edge resources. Missing from most of the towers right now are edge computers, but that's where we think it's going and that's what we're focused on. But low latency 5G at the tower is the last mile for service delivery. It's the last mile for talking to sensors and IoT devices. Wireless tower covers really most cities. So the footprint is there to start doing the job as soon as the job is there. And then edge computing matched to these towers and wed to 5G brings the data closer to device and users and at really high speeds. Most towers, we've been working with a lot of tower companies, can house 1,000 or more edge servers at their towers. And so again, our contention is that 5G edge computing is the key to IoT and sensor management for smart cities. Okay, change. Thank you. Uh-oh, other direction. So we've got a couple things we want to address with 5G edge. Smart cities need simultaneous monitoring of millions of IoT devices. This is a very unique capability of the 5G emerging technology. This is requires high reliability, low latency communications. If you're going to run a smart city, you want it to be in real time. We can splice the spectrum into millions of channels and make smart monitoring possible. And then because of all the data, AI-based monitoring systems are essential. They also need to operate at the edge because that's where all the data is coming. And local data storage and analysis at the edge is also imperative. And so distributed cloud centers with direct connection to fiber and 5G are where we think this is going. Next slide, please. Also important at the edge and with these technologies is secure access for the IoT and sensors. We believe the secret to that is a crypto secure distributed ledgers. We think the IoT and the sensors all needs to be addressable, needs to be highly secure, auditable, and they need lifecycle management. So secure conditional access to all the devices is required. And we operate the security under a zero trust, never trust, always verified. And immutable ledgers keep the history of all the individual IoT and sensor device activity. Again, very key critical functions for this at the tower. Next. We have, as a lab, we have a state-of-the-art tower in North Carolina, and right next to a university with a computer science department. We have put edge computers at the tower. They're installed to fiber and to now to 5G services. We have major carriers at the tower who are aware of what we're doing, and they are customers of ours as well. And we've got the personnel to do it. So we have a lab to test all these things that we are building. And there are 5 million towers worldwide like ours that can actually use whatever configurations and applications, everything that can be built to this model. Next, please. So we're doing a lot of research and development at this point, and we're doing it because we are kind of a weird mix of entrepreneurs, academics, and innovators. In fact, at this point in time, we have 21 granted patents for the work we're doing, and we have over 44 peer-reviewed papers that are applied to the technologies that we're working on. Some of our patents have been licensed to Apple and Microsoft and others for security. And so we're focused on some technologies that seem to be disparate, but we believe they all go together to make a system like this for smart cities. Next. One of the technologies, we call it sentient computing software. It's a self-managing network environment that almost acts like the human body. It's AI driven. It's our contention that if you're going to have huge edge clouds married to these smart city environments, you're going to need a new type of network management. And so this is what we're working on here. We've had a lot of publications on this, and we're working with several universities on this piece here. And everything I'm getting ready to tell you, because we don't have much time, if you want any more information on the papers or the academic stuff around this, I'll be glad to give you the links to them. Next. We also have patents that relate to IoT, crypto-based IoT access authorization control. This is basically sort of a blockchain technology, but not really. It's built to be more fast and commercial, and it's built and not deal with cryptocurrency. It's literally designed to assign and give conditional access to every IoT device and monitor what its activity is. And we believe that this has really got to be a part of whatever we do with smart cities. Next. Again, some of our patents cover this distributed ledger piece. I won't get into this too much. Again, if you want to read some of the patents and the papers about this, but this is also the core to what would be happening in an environment that we would be creating in these edge computers at the tower. Okay, one more. Core to what we're doing is a new type of AI. It's a kind of a structured AI. They're based around knowledge structures. They're basically structural machines. They instead of running machine learning, we are teaching the AI everything we know about domain-based content. It's an ontology model, and it streamlines the ability to look at anomalies and red flags and anything that can go on in a smart city environment. This is a way for the AI to work with incredible efficiency and not be burdened by a lot of the processing that traditional machine learning type environments provide. And again, this is another whole thing that a lot of papers have been working about. In fact, one of our main research partners in this is UCLA Math Department. Again, I'd be glad to get you more material on this if you ask for it. But these four main technologies blend together for an edge computing environment that can be deployed at any tower. One last thing. Change. Okay.
Hey, Chip,
Yeah.
30-second warning.
Okay, great. The global market, there's 5 million global towers. Right now, they're making all their money just renting space to carriers for them to be able to add edge computing, not only to run applications at the edge, but to run smart city applications is a brand new revenue source for them. And so our target is the tower companies. We've already been working with some of them. They know what we're doing. And we think it's going to be a great new revenue source for them down the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chip. Open up the floor to questions.
Okay.
I'll go first. Kenny from Google. Thanks for the presentation. The technologies that you showed, I'm trying to map these to your business case and services that you provide to your customers. Are there, sounds like it was a mix of academic and also, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Have you developed that business strategy that how these technologies can feed into your business model and
Yes.
how you sell the product?
Well, it's a software development model for the edge computers. It's a management system that allows them to use the edge for a variety of things. One might just be as a CDN. The other, though, specifically because we're talking about smart cities, is a platform that can manage IoT devices and sensors and shuttle the data around. And the big key to it is 5G technology, again, being the last mile. If you're going to run big edge clouds and you're going to run federated AI and these kinds of things to manage smart cities, you better have a good way of managing that network of edge computers. And very interestingly, most of these towers have line of sight on other towers. So things like fiber and the kinds of stuff you need to move data around, it doesn't have to be to every tower. They can share the data via line of sight of, ironically, 5G dedicated signals. But our business model is to sell software for these boxes, either as a service or a license, so the tower companies can provide these services to their customers in these various cities. So it's a software licensing, software as a service model.
And then the features will be provided based on that model you have, depending on what.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and again, it's right now we're mapping out the whole the MVP. We've done this before. The business that we were in that created a lot of these patents that were licensed to Apple and other was called the DRM business back in the day. We were one of the first DRM companies. So the reason why we ended up with a lot of these patents for this sort of hybrid blockchain was that we just kept writing DRM style patents, and we kind of think this is like DRM 2.0, but DRM 2.0 works very, very well in managing IoT and sensor access and control. So we do know that piece pretty cold.
All right,
Wonderful. Harry, you have a question also.
Yeah. Is there any particular partnerships or technologies that you're focusing on as far as the edge compute hardware or specific 5G antenna protocols that work well with your solution that you're focused on for a partnership?
That's a great question. Well, we're already in partnership with some universities that are doing relevant research, like the computer science department in NC State University under AirPaul is studying drone management with 5G. So we're right in the middle of that. We're supplying them resources on that. Several other universities working under grants are also we're supplying access to our tower and our edge computers to also test their capabilities. But on our team, which I didn't include in the slide deck, but I'll be glad to, we have a guy who's one of the major antenna experts in the world, Lawrence Baer, Dr. Rao Milliken. He is the sentient computer kind of originator. He's out of Golden Gate University in San Francisco. I guess the best way to put it is the academic part right now is probably our prime partners. Being at the tower and having that hardware companies like Ericsson and anybody that's making hardware for 5G, they're interested in participating in this. Part of our model is to give them free space on our tower to test their equipment, and so that we can actually, as we develop our product, understand what the needs of their various pieces are as well. So the tower is a real a magnet for partners to participate in this thing.
Thank you very much, Chip, from EAC. Chip, stay around and put your information in the chat so people can be in touch with you if they would like to be.
Thank you very much.
Next up is Jay Gupta from Sphere Devices.
Great, thanks very much, Josh. So I'm Jai Gupta, I'm CEO of Sphere Devices. We're developing an AI edge acceleration platform that's transforming edge data into cloud intelligence. Next slide. So the fundamental problem that we're solving is that AI communication between edge and cloud is bandwidth limited. So all of these interesting services we expect to come up in the next few years, like training data selection, are all fundamentally limited by the amount of data that's being generated from edge devices like smart city cameras and autonomous vehicles. And the problem is that by 2025, these devices will be generating so much data, next slide, that it will overwhelm 5G networks, creating a bottleneck. And as a result, we'll experience very high latency services at the edge. Next slide. The Sphere solution is to take that similarity search representation that would normally be generated at the cloud and generate it directly on the edge devices. And as a result, we can create compact representations that can be efficiently transmitted over a 5G network. Next slide. So by doing things this way, we enable low latency AI services at an edge power budget, a 10x reduction in data storage, and a 100x reduction in network traffic. Next slide. So the product that's helping us do all of this is a CMOS accelerator integrated circuit and accompanying software platform. And that integrated circuit that you see in the middle has three major components. The bottom of which there you see is the neural network compiler that takes neural network models and hashing algorithms and standard machine learning frameworks and compiles them into instructions that can be run through our data flow engine. And that data flow engine then maps multiply accumulate instructions that are pervasive in these neural network models to our high endurance in-memory compute engine. And by doing that, we are overcoming a key problem that standard processors like GPUs face, which is the data movement problem, in which the vast majority of time and energy processing an AI algorithm is spent moving data back and forth between memory. So by doing in-memory computation, we're avoiding that problem. And if you go to the right there, as you can see, we have a disaggregated service for similarity search through the cloud. So we have accompanying APIs in the cloud and edge to enable that service. Next click. So as a use case of training data selection, you can imagine an autonomous vehicle or a smart city camera or UAV that's collecting some sort of data from the visual scene. Next click. At which point object detection algorithms are run to pick out objects such as pedestrians and cars and traffic signals and so on, and store those things locally. Next click. So then the edge device can then receive a data request for a specific desired training object class from the cloud and load a particular neural network for that specific desired object class. Next click. And as a result, we can then isolate that desired training object class, for example, in this case, perhaps cars, at which point we can create hash code representations for those cars. Next click. And then send them to the cloud for similarity search. And from the perspective of training data selection, that lets us do two useful things. The first of which is to identify novel images. So I can say this car is something that I've never seen before. Or similarly, I can say I can cluster similar images together. So I can say this looks like for example, a Toyota Camry, and I'll put it with the other Toyota Camry images. And so I can cluster things by make and model, for example. Next click. And then I can request any desired raw images that I want from the edge device itself. And as a result, you can see this creates a feedback loop, and that can be repeated for any number of desired training object classes. Next click. So how does this play out, for example, in the case of a smart city environment? So you can imagine a smart city camera at the edge that's surveying a busy intersection. And to the right, you can see there's a number of subscribers that are looking to tap into that data feed in order to provide some useful services. Next click. So all of these subscribers are looking for different objects for any given frame in the visual scene as it's being processed. For example, pedestrians, sedans, or in the case of a specific example given us by Boulder AI, which is a smart city traffic company, they're looking for 3+ axle trucks. Next slide. So as all of these things are detected in the visual scene, they're detected and then hash code representations are generated and sent to the cloud for similarity search. And as you can see, in most cases, nothing really will happen. But in some of the cases, you might, for example, find a novel image for a 3+ axle truck. Next click. And then you can request that image from the smart city camera. Next click. And return that image to subscriber number 10. And next click. To subscriber number 10 in this case to increase his training data store. And so as a result, he can then build up a training data class, which he can then use for detecting 3+ axle trucks later on. Next click. So we're building key partnerships, particularly with Dell Technologies for cloud requirements and customer discovery, with Boulder AI for smart city use cases, and with the Global Semiconductor Alliance's Automotive Interest Group for automotive use cases in the future. Next click. Okay, so we have raised about $2 million of dilutive capital, primarily through Paladin Capital, and about $3 million of non-dilutive capital, primarily through a series of DARPA contracts, the last of which just ended in April. Next click. So we're raising a $6 million seed financing to develop our AI accelerator at scale. That DARPA Virtual Intelligence Processing Program that I mentioned just ended in April, led us to a lot of the key software work and some of the exhaustive integrated circuit simulation work around the solution that we've just been presenting to you. Next click. And so what we want to do is to use, next click. What we want to do is to use the $6 million seed financing to fabricate key hardware and develop additional software such that we can raise a $20+ million round in about a year to create a first product. Next click. So our team has a long history of working well together. There's myself, the CEO, there's Abby Matthew, our COO, and Naharat Reyes, our CTO. And we all work together at a company called Newlands, where we were the team that worked on hybrid analog digital processing techniques for clients such as Google Advanced Technology and Projects Group's mobile imaging unit, as well as Lockheed Martin's radar signal processing unit. Next slide. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
This is Dominic. Just a couple of questions. One, I'd ask, who are your competitors in this space? And then two, have you found any other use cases for this outside of autonomous vehicles, transportation for now?
Oh, certainly. So some of the, as you can imagine, there's other people that are developing edge hardware for AI that not for this. So one of the big differences that we're doing here is this is a purpose-built solution for this sort of the solution that I was showing you of similarity search in the cloud, and particularly doing things like training data selection. And so so that is something that's unique. You can imagine other hardware, it's people like NVIDIA, of course, as I mentioned, GPUs develop edge hardware that could be used for this, but will not give you some of the same performance benefits. As I was mentioning, things like in-memory computation is a distinguishing factor, and some of the purpose-built sort of elements around the software as well. Give us significant performance increases over them. Or similarly, there's other startups that are doing edge hardware for AI kinds of computations as well. And so you mentioned other sort of use cases besides automotive or smart cities. Certainly, there's other things that could be done in the same way that you could have problems in manufacturing. You could have problems in robotics and other kinds of things. We focused on these ones particularly because those are the biggest pain points. As I was showing you in the first slide, the bandwidth problem is the biggest thing, and autonomous vehicles and to some extent smart city cameras will both be the ones generating by far the most data that needs to be intelligently selected from, essentially.
Thank you.
This is Tyler from Colorado. You mentioned that the problem that you're solving is that the 5G network will eventually get bogged down by the bandwidth requirements of these use cases. When do you see that problem actually materializing? And right. Because right now 5G certainly is not crowded.
Right. So the big part of the problem is that in about 2025, just like I had said in the first slide, that's kind of a tipping point where there will be enough L3 level kind of autonomous vehicles that may want to start essentially, bogging down networks with about this much data, or there'll be enough smart city rollout, perhaps that at least in some of the specific larger cities, this can become a significant problem. As you can imagine, competing with cellular users and things for 5G network bandwidth is going to be a big problem, and there needs to be a way to kind of handle this problem. So already, these guys are kind of thinking about the best way to do this. And there's plenty of things like the Automotive Edge Computing Consortium that generates a huge amount of white papers and things that about in the last year or so about how to address this problem when it really materializes around 2025. So it's something that industry understands is a problem in that time frame.
Hi, this is Harry. I'm wondering, similar to the question I asked Chip, what sort of partnerships that you've already explored? It seems that your technology would hinge on getting that chip into devices, camera manufacturers, automotive groups. Is there anybody that you've already worked with, maybe at a research level?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, these DARPA contracts have enabled us to do a lot of things. What we've tried to do is to work with, for example, particularly a smart city partner, in the case of smart city, since we're talking about it, called Boulder AI. Of course, we don't have hardware to work with them yet, but they've expressed a lot of interest, and we could give them and they've been interested in an early access kind of program that we could give when the hardware is available. The idea would be to work with a partner like that, and then to offer, for example, an AI training data selection service to their customers, sort of like we showed you in those slides. And then the idea is that a lot of their customers, of course, as you can imagine, these smart city guys often realize that monetizing their data is the big use case for them, the big monetary revenue driver. And automotive OEMs are one of their biggest customers because they want to use that data to perfect their autonomous driving techniques and things. So it becomes a way to kind of provide a service to automotive OEMs through a smart city, and then ultimately get them interested enough to realize that we can maximize the value of this for ourselves if we bring this into our cars directly. Just like we showed you. So at that point, we can create an automotive reference design, hopefully with one or more automotive OEMs. And so that's sort of the idea.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jay, from Spare Devices. We're moving on to the next company. So we're joined by Colin Gundin from VIA. If you remember earlier on, we mentioned this tactical financing program for the United States Air Force. So VIA is not only an AFWERX winner, winning the phase 2 as well, but has already actually applied for the TACFI program. So it'd be interesting to hear what they have to say, obviously looking at it from a different angle. So welcome, VIA.
Thanks very much. First, I should say, if you are in Colorado or Arizona, I hope you're keeping cool. I'm on the East Coast here, and it's a beautiful 72 or 75 today. So we're taking advantage of the good weather while we can. We're usually the ones with 95 degrees and 100 degrees in the summer. So I hope you're keeping cool wherever you are and keeping safe wherever you are. Thank you to Deep Tech for taking the time to allow us to present today, and we look forward to answering your questions. Before we kick off, I guess the theme of today, as we've seen from EAC and Sparrow, is that the theme is around connectivity. And I think we'd say if you're a smart city or a community or a region or a state, by definition you're connected, right? The definition of a town is you are sharing and connected via physical assets like power or water or waste or some kinds of systems. And really today we're talking about sort of digital connectivity is kind of the theme that I think is kind of critical here. And if we go to the first slide, we think what's important, or especially as it gets hotter and as we're trying to adapt and adopt new clean technologies, is really collaboration. Yuval, can we go to the next slide, please? Great. So we see, ultimately, there's often a mismatch. It's not about resources necessarily. It's often about like matching the resources that any particular town, government, city, building has to the assets, to what they need. So, and it's that collaboration is becoming harder and harder. As electric vehicles join the grid, as renewable generations join the grid. So the idea of having a digital platform where we're able to collaborate makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things that's always been an issue is that there's that digital collaboration historically has required sort of sharing of data. It's like, well, I'll be happy to work with you if you just give me your data. Right. And the other party always says, well, I'll be happy to work with you if you share your data. right? And in fact, in many cases, people don't even know who owns the data, right? They may be stewards of it, they may have access, but they don't actually know who owns the data. What we provide at VIA is essentially a platform for this digital secure collaboration across many, many parties. So if you go to the next slide, please, Yvonne. We provide, the slide before, slide 2, please. So we provide at VIA this secure platform, which and we have a specific application as a first application where we've developed for building and infrastructure maintenance. We'll give you some screenshots and we'll show you what that looks like and talk about some customers in that area. So if you are a building manager or a facilities manager or a city manager, then we're interested in hearing from you. Of course, there are way more, if you go to the next slide, please, there are way more assets and applications and problems than VIA could ever solve. So part of being a platform is that if there are others who have better algorithms or algorithms for power management or for waste or for other kinds of security, then our platform allows those application developers, model developers, and others to participate and use the same platform and provide those on an easy basis to use. So that's a little overview of the platform. Why we think it's sort of interesting is if you go to the next slide. One is, speed matters. So here we're not transmitting the data. We're doing, there's a bit of a federated model here, similar to what you've heard from EAC and Spiro. I think one of the things that we've learned is whatever data you have, whatever format it's in, it's always in the wrong format for whatever analysis somebody wants to do. So the analytics, the AI is always hard because the match between, what format is that data in and what you want to analyze and what format you have it in is always mismatched. We actually apply our own AI to the data sets to be able to, that each company or each organization has, to be able to transform it into a standardized format that makes it easier to analyze. And we have a commercial product that's in the market today and in use, and our customers tell us it's 100 times faster than sort of traditional data science approaches, programmatic approaches. Next slide, please. You've heard a little bit today about sort of a federated model. So this is also a no data transfer model. The best way to keep your data secure and safe and private is don't send it to anybody. Don't send it to us. Don't send it to others. Keep it where it is. I think that model is kind of, as you can see, sort of being proven out. And then the next thing, and the last thing I'd say is sort of as a, Yuval, the next slide, please, that where we think the other thing is security. How do you know that we're any good, right? And our application, as Josh had pointed out, appreciate you giving us a little shout out. We have not only one sort of initial SBIR kind of pieces. We have an application that's been deployed, and we'll give you a little preview of that. But we've gone through what's called the continuous ATO process. So our software gets tested by the DoD every 12 hours of every day for cybersecurity protocols. And then if there's an issue, we have 12 hours to respond and fix it. So we've got this sort of continuous cycle to be able to upgrade and update the security features. That same platform is available to everyone. We don't have two separate versions of our software, one for commercial, one for military. We use everything that we've done and that we've learned from the DoD, for others as well.
Colin, 30-second warning.
Great, we're almost through. Next slide is, there's a lot of technology behind that. We do have some issued patents and some new patents we filed. Part of that is around automation, around the data ingestion. Part of it is around making sure you can allow whatever kind of analysis you want. And part of it is around the security components. Next slide. Today I mentioned that we support the US DoD for military bases, for example. These are actual screenshots from a little bit disguised, but actual screenshots from an application. We have more than 20 different screens that run and analytics that can be also customized. Just this year alone, we've supported more than $180 million in infrastructure analysis that includes roads, runways, buildings, et cetera. And then I think we're on to the last couple slides here, which is we work with some of the largest companies in the world. We have customers in #1 in Europe and #1 in New Zealand, some of the leading companies in the US as well. All of it is infrastructure analysis for those companies. And then, our ask today next slide is to join us. I don't know if you can use the raise hand function, but I would ask, if you are, we just closed a $10 million Series A round. So really we're looking for customers to accelerate the growth and join our platform. We have, next slide, if you are a infrastructure manager, a facilities manager, if you oversee maintenance, then we'd love to hear from you about how we could help reduce infrastructure costs, improve health and safety. Next slide. We have, very easy model in terms of pricing, which we can talk about, but basically we're so confident about the data transformation piece. We basically do that for free, which is often like 80% of any AI project or any kind of analytics project. And then the last piece is, we hope that, whether, if you are a manager of some government infrastructure or commercial infrastructure, we hope that you would join us. And, as part of collaboration, we're not just doing, collaborating for analytics, we're collaborating for a cleaner, safer, more secure future. So thank you again for taking the time to listen today.
Wonderful. Opening the floor for questions.
I guess I'll ask one. Colin, interesting platform. Looks like you've got a lot of different constituencies that connect into the platform, and so I'm just kind of wondering what the sales process looks like, for getting the platform in place and then trying to plug in all these different constituencies. How does that work?
So it's a good question. I think selling one by one is really hard, which is why generally, and we don't need all of them to join all at once. So in general, if you look at whether it's the military or some of our other corporate customers, generally they own a diversity of infrastructure and a lot of assets. So I think combined, there's something like $1 trillion worth of assets that each, that our customers own across, the US and Europe and Western Europe. And so basically we focused on larger customers who have, who own a number of, assets combined and together. So that way it's easier for them. And it's regionally focused, right? So, part of the reason we'd love to hear from Colorado and Arizona is if there's an opportunity, and others, by the way, no state, discrimination, but we think working at a city level, municipal level, allows us to connect to multiple people because there's a combined incentive. They are by definition reliant on each other and want to share and want to work with each other. So if they're interested in this they're motivated by sort of the cleaner air, cleaner water kind of mission.
Thank you.
Time for one last question. If everybody's got it, go ahead, Harry.
No specific question, but I just wanted to tell you that we will definitely be reaching out. It's an interesting platform that addresses a need at the local government level. Our data analytics, especially around the building automation and public utility side of things, is an ever-present challenge. So.
Yeah, and only growing. Mm-hmm. It's only getting harder. On a 120-degree day, it's like, everybody.
Yep. It's 117 today.
Yeah, exactly. It's off by 3 degrees. It's only 2.5%.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Colin. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Up next is OptiPulse. We're joined by John Joseph, CEO of OptiPulse.
Hi. Let's see. Are we ready for the presentation? Great. Hi, my name's John Joseph. We're asking for investment, and what we're really talking about here is a new type of invention. We have invented and patented a new type of light source, and that light source is infrared. It has really high power and extremely high bandwidth, and we are applying it to 6G technologies, and you'll see why after I go through this. But basically, we're asking the question, why you know, what is 5G and what could 6G be? It's much faster. It uses less energy, costs less, should cover better, which 5G didn't do from 4G. So we are delivering new 6G emitters for sale to product developers here at the end of this year, and we're asking $8 million. Next, please. My name's John Joseph. I'm the CEO, and I lead an elite team of scientists that worked with me at Sandia National Labs over 30 years ago in a number of areas which basically produce the devices for fiber optic communications today. We're using a similar laser to that, and I'll describe that here now. Let's go to the next, please. So this new light source, as you can see on this finger here, that small chip, there's 20,000 of those chips produced on a 4-inch wafer. That chip has 37 lasers on it. All of these lasers produce enough power to go 2 miles distance at it with a actually this chip is tested over 25 gigabits per second with zero errors. And this is very unusual. It's a new type of architecture for a photonics chip. It basically takes all of the beams of the different lasers and it sums them with a micro-optic process that's wafer scale. So we can virtually produce that chip for $1, and it is the enabling technology that can send multiple gigabits per second over long distances. Now, the other interesting thing on the patents is that if we shift the micro-optics and X or Y, what we can do is end up with an interesting configuration where we can have multiple chips on the same beam. And this is the proof of that over here. We have 3 chips, and all of those, if you look back through the projection lens's focal point, you will see that 7 millimeters behind this chip, all of these chips are all on the same beam. So that means we can multiplex these at different wavelengths and or different amplitude modulations. So that gives us the ability to put hundreds and hundreds of gigabits per second on a single beam with very high power. Now, the other thing that we can do is shift this micro-optic slightly to the left or right, and what it will do is passively align that beam to a different direction other than the incident angle. So we can actually form an array of arrays like I'm pointing out here, and if we sequence through these chips, we can actually move the beam and direct it non-mechanically, which is a huge benefit for free space optical communications. Typically right now, free space optical communications have to have expensive, heavy gimbals that move the beam around. So we are producing a new high resolution chip in phase 2 of the National Science Foundation project, and we were successful in that first phase 1. Next, please. This is just kind of more data on how this works. All of the beams overlap at some point, and at that overlap point, all of the intensity is very nice and high and uniform. And that's what we project into the far field. Next, please. And this is more indication that what we can do with that, how small it is, and this is actually showing that we can form the beams to whatever. This is the hexagon that you saw that we made out of the laser, and that's what's projected into the far field, and we can sequence through and move the beam. Next, please. These are beam calculations coming straight out of the chip. Next, please. Sorry about the data. Next, please. So there's many use cases for this module, and the 5G backhaul is where we're applying it now with our first product, which I'll show you here in a second. There's all kinds of different use cases for this, including mobile vehicle-to-vehicle networks, data center, low loss connections, many types of things that can change with this new technology. There's too many to go into right here. Next, please. What we are delivering this year at the end of the quarter is we are developing these boards, and these boards we put into a system and proven the system works well. So now we're going to sell these development boards to equipment manufacturers for very high speed wireless, optical wireless equipment. Next, please.
Hey, John, 30-second
Yes.
warning.
Okay, next, please. So this is what we've shown. We put one of these chips into a system, and that system we put on 2 buildings at a local college at over 100 meters distance, got 10 gigabits per second upload and download. And we are now in our next version of that, which has automatic alignment and all kinds of cool networking capabilities. Next, please. There's the use cases for this first product, which is basically getting across rivers and highways and train tracks, which this is ideal for. And we talked to 100 customers and they all need this really badly. Next, please. Space is the big one. We've got multiple partners right now that is looking and evaluating our devices for celestial links and in space, satellite, and different partners looking into that, whether it's ground to earth, earth to earth, or LEO to LEO satellites. Next, please. And the big one is the smart pole. We are manufacturing a smart pole, which we will have other manufacturers put the actual electronics and cell type devices through, but we're having a conference on this, on 6G conference, to allow us to conceive and build this new smart pole in the best possible way for third party connections. Next, please. Lots of traction. We've got a DoD phase 2. We got an overachievement status in it, and that was with the Army. We're in phase 2 on schedule and on budget. We've got another National Science Foundation phase 2 coming in, and we have lots of production, wafers grown, chips made. We've raised $4 million to date. Next, please. Next, please. We're asking for $8 million basically for operations, and something's recently changed with us, the ability to make a production facility. And if you're interested, we'd like to talk to you. Next, please. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and be glad to answer any questions.
I'll go. Thank you, John. Exciting technology. From a range standpoint, can you speak to data rate versus range?
Yes. So RF has a problem. 5G millimeter wave only goes a few hundred meters because they go to a higher frequency. That depends on power and divergence angle. We have huge amounts of power and virtually unlimited because of this new architecture of the chip. So right now we are expecting to go easily 5 miles with our chip technology, but there has been some recent modeling to go to space, and we found out that we need a 10-watt emitter with a M squared of 1.5 in order to do 1,000-mile LEO link to LEO link, and we know we can do that, and we're in the process right now of designing that. So that link would probably go tens of miles for a long distance, but we really see this as a unique way to do short distance links, even less than a mile, to many different connections to houses and businesses instead of 5G millimeter wave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last chance for a question for OptiPulse. Wonderful. Thank you so much, John, CEO of OptiPulse. We're now joined by Alad Sagiv of Waycare. Alad, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for having us today. I will briefly introduce Waycare and what we're doing. So my name is Sagiv Alad. I'm Business Development Director at Waycare. Next slide, please. What we're doing, we are an AI cloud-based software platform that is doing proactive traffic management. So the main problem today with traffic management is that there is already a lot of data that is coming in, but it's very much siloed. So a lot of agencies and even Ministry of Transportation invested millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure projects, but they're not really connected to each other. So if anyone visited a traffic management center, you see an operator looking at many, many different screens, and all of those data feeds are very much siloed, and there isn't one clear picture. And also, in order to gain more visibility on what is going on the roads, they tend to go on a very heavily costly physical infrastructure projects that will take very long time to implement and will cost a lot of money. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So what we're doing basically is we're tapping into the traffic management centers. And first of all, we will aggregate all of the different data feeds into one holistic platform with a very friendly UI for the operators to understand what is going on the roads. And second of all, we will introduce new data feeds. Next slide, please. New data feeds that are that there's already a lot of data that is going on the roads today. This is not science fiction. You know, connected vehicles are not something like a vision for the next couple of years. There's already a lot of data that is being produced right now, and together with our partners like Wejo, Autonomo, but also working directly with OEMs like Volvo. The one official partnerships that we have, but we are talking directly with other OEMs. We're already getting a lot of insights from vehicles that are running. It could be telematics companies. And next slide, please. Just a few examples of the amount of devices that are out there and generating a lot of information. Next slide, please. So basically what the technology is doing is we're learning the behavior of the roads. And from doing that, we can understand and analyze and give to the traffic management centers that, okay, there is now regular congestion, something that is happening, you know, every rush hour, but also then differentiate what is irregular congestion. And in most cases that we're seeing is that irregular congestion is happening because there was a car accident. There is some hazard on the road. And the reason why a lot of agencies are like to work with us from pilot to a big framework agreement, and then we're seeing, you know, in the US, we're seeing the customers are then persuading other public agencies to work with us, is we're helping them change the mindset from just being very passive. And this is what is happening in most of the traffic management centers. You're just reacting to stuff that are happened. And also the way to be informed is if a civilian would call in and report it in. So by being able to understand what is going on before someone even reported it in, makes a lot of value and a very big impact in the way that they're managing the roads, they're taking care of car accidents while they happen. But also we have the ability, again, using our technology to predict what will happen. We're doing it in a window of 24 hours ahead in segments of 2 hours, and we're notifying specific segment of roads that will have more tendency to be dangerous. There's a high probability of a car crash there. So with the already limited resources of an agency, they will be able to control the resources better and then understand, okay, this is an area that will be a bit more problematic. Let's send or let's report to the highway police that they should be stationed there. Next slide, please. Another key issue, another key feature that we have is, and it's very popular in the US, is we're through the platform, we're able to also, or agencies are able to communicate with drivers. So there's the 511, it can be with crowd source apps like Waze and others. that agencies are using this form of communication to directly interact with drivers and notify them that is something that is going on the road. Next slide, please. As a whole, we have an open architecture. We believe in partnerships, and we're agnostic to any kind of hardware that currently is deployed. So in the partners list, we are already working with the big integrators, the big ITS systems that are deployed. We are agnostic to the needs of our customers, and it's a SaaS platform. So once we're deployed, once everything is integrated, it's very easy to control and to use. Next slide, please. Regarding our deployment, so the company was founded back in 2016 in Israel, but the first go-to-market was the US. So we started from a small pilot in Vegas, and from there expanded to South Nevada region. And now we're deployed in over 10 states. By the end of this year, we're hoping to be deployed in over 13 states. In Israel, this is kind of our R&D base. So we're obviously on a national reach. We're covering the state of Israel, but also we're launching a project with the Toyota Mobility Foundation in Bangkok, something that will be really interesting to investigate further. Next slide, please. And as a conclusion, so we just published a white paper, I think it was 2 days ago, about the Road to Zero, a project that we did together with the South Nevada transportation agencies and with the highway police. So we took 1 year and the specific segments of the highway while working with all different agencies. And with our prediction abilities, we notify them, okay, you should station those. We should station those police cars in this specific roads that will have more tendency to be more dangerous. And in conclusion of this project, we were able to reduce by 18% the numbers of car crashes. This also helped the state to win another grant. So now there's a lot of initiatives by the federal government, and we're helping agencies and local authorities to win those kind of grants. The key feature, or the key again stat, is that we're helping our customers to identify 20% more incidents they will never be aware without our platform. I mentioned the public outreach, which is very significant, and there is a 9-minute reduction in the identification that something happened. And this is something that is very crucial when you're attending someone that was hurt, or also clearing out, a hazardous road.
Second warning.
No problem. That was the last point I had. Again, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward for your questions.
Thank you, Sagiv. Open up the floor. Any questions for Waycare? Sagiv from Waycare?
I'm Sota from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and I have a question. Do you have any competitors? And if so, what is your advantage point over them?
It's a very good question. So I mentioned the big companies like Siemens or other integrators that we're listing as partners. So what we're seeing, when I first joined, I thought that, okay, wait a second, that's the biggest competition. But what I've learned is that, there are massive companies, and there is now a few opportunities, a few tenders that they ask us to apply with them because we're adding the scores for innovation. So what we're doing is quite unique and also kind of proven with the customers that we're doing already. I know that there are a lot of buzzwords around about AI, and but in the end, they do fill the gap in those specific features or what we excel at. and it makes more sense to work with them together. And also regards of the size. So yes, we are a small startup, but if they're the massive boats, if I'm comparing them to the massive boats on the ocean, that we're the speedboats, and the customers are really they have a very big impact or feedback that it's very refreshing. Our approach also to adapt and to listen to their needs, and then to add new features is something that is very refreshing to them. And we're getting this from all of our customers, and I guess this is one of our key differentiator.
Thank you. As you may know, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries developed automated toll system for Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have a potential opportunity to collaborate.
So one of our investors are Goldbell, and they're very much dominate in Singapore. Yes, for sure. We have been in conversation there, and we'll be there's an ongoing discussion with them.
Okay, so I will I will contact you later.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. We're gonna have to cut it short. Thank you very much, Guy from Waycare.
Thank you again.
It's a pleasure. Moving on to our third and final session, let's meet the panelists for Smart Mobility. So we have Bob Christopher from Diamond Edge Ventures, Reese Schroeder staying on from Allstate Ventures, Dominic Papa also staying on from Arizona Commerce Authority, Harry Meyer from the City of Mesa, from Mobileye, Adam Weiss, Taylor Hogan from Snowball Capital, from Activate, Robert Ethier from Activate's Investment Wing, from Moog Aircraft, Jeff Errett, from Siemens Digital Industry Software, Charles Crowfer, and from the City of Patterson, Edward Bose. The companies pitching today, not in this order. Next slide, please. Are eLink Air, Dot Incorporation, Target Arm Incorporated, Psionic Energy, Cognata, and Robotire. So we're going to get right started with it, starting with Shai Rootman, who is coming from Cognata.
Hello.
Hi, Shai.
Hi, thank you. Can you please enable me to share my screen?
You should be good now.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Shai Rootman, Business Development Director from Cognata. At Cognata, we do simulation for autonomous vehicles and ADAS systems. And in this 5 minutes presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about Cognata, what we do for simulation of autonomous vehicles, and then kind of take you a zoom into our smart city offering as it's more suitable for this meeting. So Cognata is about 5-year-old startup company in Israel. We are around 55 employees and hiring. So far, we have raised $23 million from several investors, and we're working very hard globally in the autonomous and ADAS simulation markets, and lately also in the smart cities and off-road markets. So what is it that we do at Cognata? At Cognata, we take the entire problem of ADAS and autonomous vehicle validation, starting from the basic L0 functionality of just the safety level, coming all the way to L4, and where we acknowledge the fact that the more the functional requirement increases, the more testing that you need. And in order to do that, we have built a super robust simulation platform to test, train, and validate autonomous vehicles and ADAS systems. We know how to simulate sensors, camera, radar, lidars. We know how to train perception. We know how to train also the steering of the vehicle, the prediction and the control. And then we enabled our customers to manage huge amount of data that we generate on the simulation platform, running all type of different analysis and understanding exactly where they need to focus. Our end product are basically two products. We have the simulation platform that enables you to run the simulation. And for customer who only wants the end results, we also offer data sets, custom synthetic data sets for their needs. In order to do that, we have built 4-layer technology. I'm going to focus today on the first layer because it's super suited for the smart city use case. So in order for us to build the simulation platform, we've created a digital twin environment, which basically means that we are recreating a certain portion of the city where we would like to train our simulation, very, very accurate, up to the level of the trees and the facades. And how do we do that? Basically, on the left side, you see our simulation. On the right side, you see the real view of Lombard Street in San Francisco. We take advantage of high definition maps that are used by automotive in order to drive autonomous vehicles. We know how to automatically generate and load them. And once we have generated them and loaded them, and you can see here a very, very quick presentation, how we're basically loading the maps, loading what's are inside the maps, and eventually building a super rich environment that enables us to recreate or to create a digital twin infrastructure. Once we have done that, we can start and run all of our interesting scenarios based on synthetic environment that are built on the high definition map infrastructure. Now, this is great, but this is still not the digital twin that we are looking for. So on top of that, we're adding some more elements, and eventually the end results would look something like those. So here you see basically a super rich high definition photorealistic environment of digital twin. And naturally, for every frame that we create, we have a perfect ground truth. And in this example, you can see how we recreated Shanghai, the photorealistic effect, Lombard Street, a certain portion of Berlin, Munich, Pittsburgh, Paris, and then Paris in the fog, which is just for us, just a click of a button. Eventually, what you can do in smart cities with our use case are things like this, where basically you can monitor traffic in a way that you can train your algorithms to understand how traffic behave and how to recognize it. We can create complex scenarios of traffic with vehicles, pedestrians, and almost everything that you would like. So this is a very, very common use case for our smart city customers. And in addition, you can take use case like this to train your traffic cameras on the highway to understand and to be able to react to traffic based on our synthetic data simulation. That's it for today. Please feel free to approach me on my email. We're looking for customers. We have enough funding. We have what we need in order to move on. And we're looking for partnerships, customers, and any type of business-related opportunity related to smart cities. Thank you so much.
Floor is open. Panelists, feel free to ask your questions directly.
Thank you.
This is Bob Christopher, Diamond Edge Ventures. I'm with Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings, not Mitsubishi Heavy Industry, but same overall parent company. I'm interested to find out about the physics. And there's a lot of, I guess what's not talked about a lot in simulated environments is the physics, the weight, the velocity, how that makes a decision, like how that affects lane changing and braking. So I'm wondering how does your system, does it have a physics engine?
Yes,
as part of it?
So that's a good question. With the 5-minute speech, it's very hard to cover everything, but our simulation is fully physics-based. Basically means that the torsion of the engine, the mass of the vehicle, everything is tuned in order to provide with a very accurate experience. Our vehicle traffic model is built out of our algorithms of learning how real traffic behaves and then mimic it on our simulation, and then naturally enable those mimic of the traffic in a very large scale, basically taking some certain portion of a specific behavior of traffic, and then running a 10,000 slightly different permutation of this traffic behavior, enabling a very, very large scale simulation platform.
Right, and I think that isn't like the big goal is to really define as many edge cases as you can to then predict for those edge cases.
Actually, yes and no. So usually you have to learn to crawl before you learn to walk, and sometimes people are just coming directly to the edge cases before they are able to actually operate a vehicle safely. We are providing an end-to-end simulation platform, which basically means that we enable you to do both, meaning also to train your vehicle on very basic scenarios, and then we'll move to the edge cases, which basically is a very, very long tail which never ends. And we provide a huge scenario-based language and library for those things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Charles Coover speaking from Siemens. I was really interested, and I was wondering actually if you were able to do support scenarios as well in like outside of urban situations, off-road, and then even as an extension of that, also with the uprise of urban air mobility, for airborne vehicles and that's kind of autonomous development and for airborne.
So the quick answer would be yes. On the previous Deep Tech conference, we have highlighted our off-road technology. Basically, we do know how to train an off-road vehicle, starting from different agriculture, mining, and infrastructure. We will be happy to share thoughts later.
Thank you so much, Shai from Cognata.
Thank you very much.
Please, I know your last slide had your contact information. Please put in the chat as well, so those who wish could be in contact with you soon. Next up is eLink Air.
Good day, everybody.
Gad Haran.
Yeah, good day. I'm the founder of eLink Air. We are a very young startup. Our vision is emission-free highway, where every e-car with small battery can drive forever without polluting the air and without stopping for a charge. Next slide, please. Our invention is the eLink Air drone, which has the capability to interact with dedicated transmission lines and draw electricity from them while on the move. That way, it is not limited by range or weight like ordinary drones that has to carry heavy batteries. It is, however, capable to leave the transmission lines at any point and continue autonomously to its destination as an ordinary drone. There are several potential uses to eLink Air capability, and one of them is charging electric vehicles on the move, and which we described herein. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Could you please activate the video there? You see here the drone released from the top of the car and engages with the transmission line above the highway. And when the car is about to leave the highway, the drone goes back into its docking station, and the car moves into the city where it drives like ordinary electric car with a small battery, and that's the aim. The aim is that the cars will not have to carry heavy batteries, 500-kilogram batteries like Tesla is proposing or selling, because when the car will go outside of the city, it will be electrified by the electrical road. Next slide, please. This is a disruptive technology. This is the future of e-mobility. It's not logical that electric cars will be heavier this time 30% more than they were 5 years ago. In order to overcome the distance anxiety, car manufacturers add hundreds of kilograms of batteries, which are expensive, heavy, and hazardous. In Sweden and Germany, they understood it several years ago, and they developed, Siemens specifically is developing the e-highway electrified road for trucks. So trucks that are going long distances on highway will not pollute the air with diesel, but they will propel like electric trains or trolley bus. And we are going to use this infrastructure, which is tested and regulated to propel light vehicles and private cars. Next slide, please. So the value for the vehicle owners, they will have cheaper cars and they will not have to stop to recharge on the road. Next slide, please. The car manufacturers will have 60% less batteries to look after, which is a big headache for them for sourcing materials. And since the cars will be a little bit cheaper, maybe 30% cheaper, it will be increased, potential increase of sales. Next slide. And society as a whole will have reduced carbon footprint, minimize related health damages from pollution, and the shift to e-mobility will be faster. Next slide. Next slide, please. The key market data, as you know, you can see in the graph below that the sales of electric cars is booming. In the year 2027, Bloomberg predicts 10 million electric cars, and Deloitte even 15 million. If only fraction of this quantity will purchase e-linker, we will be in good position. We will target first North Europe because there the adoption of electric cars is most advanced, and they already know the catenary, the transmission line, the e-highway concept. And they are, Sweden, for example, in 2022 will decide which technology they are going to use for ERS, for electrifying roads. We're looking for a joint venture with EV manufacturers. Obviously, we need to integrate the systems, and we need to talk with policymakers, regulators, and campaign leaders in reducing the pollution. That the right way is not to have the hype of batteries that will be later on become the headache of reclamation of these millions of tons of batteries that are predicted to be produced. Next slide, please. So what we are looking for is, for now, we are looking for a US-based partner for a joint project under the Bird Funding Foundation. And of course, we'll be happy to have a business partner in the US. We are locating investors in the e-mobility sectors because we are in the seed phase stage. Next slide, please. We are looking for raising about $2 million now to finalize the testing of the first prototype of our product. And
30-second warning.
Yeah, we hope by the year of 2024 we'll have a product ready for sales. Next slide, please. This is our team. Myself, I am manager. I managed large engineering and construction companies for mega projects in infrastructure, power stations, and refineries, and whatever. Ziv Nave is our CTO. He has his own. He started his own company that develops and UAVs and drones for the security industry for many years. And Shlomi is our business development manager, which is very experienced in high-tech startups, energy, fintech, cyber, etc. Next slide. This is just a tip of the other future developments of this technology. These are e-corridors for good delivery between cities, logistic hubs, and remote rural areas, because for long distances, the e-linker can drive forever. It is not bothered by the weight of the battery. And also somebody mentioned before the air taxis that are developed by Bell, by Airbus, by Boeing and others that now have limited range of 50 miles because of the weight of the batteries. And with this, this technology, they can drive between cities with no problem. This is just like refueling jets in mid-air. E-Linker can refuel electric vehicles in mid-air. Thank you very much. I am ready for questions.
Good, interesting idea. Just curious as to, how much capital do you think it's going to take to get the system up into initial commercial revenue generating deployment?
I believe we have a very elaborate business plan, and we are looking for $6 million to end of the phase 2 before commercializing the product. And this specific one for cars. I'm not talking about the whole range of options for use of this.
Yeah, I'm really asking about after that.
Well, after that, listen, we are looking for EV manufacturer joint venture, because for production of 10,000 or 100,000 of E-Linkers, you need production lines. And for that matter, we are not at this stage. If we get to this stage where this technology is adopted, of course, the investment for production are huge. This technology is completely a disruptive technology. You know that the production hubs for batteries all around the world now is investment of billions. We are talking about a change in the industry. And the infrastructure installation of electrifying the roads between the cities is going to be in the magnitude of the trains in the running to the west. So, but it is there is no way out. There is no. This is the future, because the batteries will drown us at the end of the day if we are not using the electrified roads.
Hey, God, Adam from Mobileye here.
Yeah.
First of all, great outside of the box thinking. If I compare it to the electric roads, which are now being tested in some places around the world, also Tel Aviv, it's obvious that you are offering a much more scalable, faster scalable idea, if I understand correctly. I wanted to ask about OEM versus aftermarket solutions. Can you be an aftermarket retrofitted solution, or can you work only with OEMs?
Well, we need to work with the OEM in order to look after the interface between the E-Linker and the electric cars. But the E-Linker will be on the car rooftop as an add-on, and it will just have to have a socket to connect with for the connection to the electric system of the car. So there is no need for modification in the car, if that's what you are asking. So it will be possible to sell it as an after-sale product, but to begin with, we'll have to do with the manufacturer.
Okay.
And I think that Mobileye for autonomous vehicles is absolutely a partner for the electrified roads, any solution, because and we need systems like Mobileye to make this system robust.
And one last question: how long does it take to charge the vehicle, and can you opt out in the middle of a charging?
Well, for a light electric vehicle, the need to charge on the road is about 20 kilowatts. What we are looking for now is the e-linker will be able to transfer 30 kilowatts to the car, which will be enough for the drive and for the charge at the same time.
In how long of a ride?
If you enter a road for an hour, 100 kilometers, for example, you will spend 20 kilowatts during this hour, and we will charge you 20 kilowatts and additional 10 kilowatts to charge your battery.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I think it plays a little bit into what Ruth was asking earlier, like the investment that's needed up front, not just monetary to get the infrastructure in place. I might have missed what you own in the process. Are you deploying your own drones, for example, or is that outsourced for the transmission line installation? Do these already exist, or are you installing all of it? Are you a pure software play? Just kind of the overall infrastructure, how much of it you own?
Okay, first of all, what we own is only the patent and the first prototype that we developed and we are testing these days. This is what we own. The infrastructure will be built anyway and not by us. It will be built by the government or by the private sector that will be called to put it as a tollway, a toll road over the highways all over Europe and the United States if it will adopt it. And the infrastructure will come for the trucks and for the buses and for the heavy cars. It will come anyhow. We will just ride on the same infrastructure with the light vehicles. This is our solution.
Thank you so much, God, from E-Link Air. Thank you for joining us all the way from Haifa. Next up, we have Psionic Energy, and presenting will be Ed Williams, CEO.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ed Williams, CEO of Psionic Energy, which is introducing the next generation lithium-ion battery into the marketplace using an innovative electrolyte and high-capacity silicon battery. Next slide, please. As most of you know, the marketplace is accelerating rather dramatically in terms of the use of energy storage, especially in the electric vehicles. Most everyone is trying to pursue the lower cost and the higher performance to increase the broad market acceptance of the electric vehicles. And we are in pursuit of that particular opportunity. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The marketplace landscape today in the pursuit of the next generation lithium-ion batteries really falls into two primary camps. It's about the performance of the anode. One approach is solid state with lithium metal anode, and the second approach is higher capacity silicon, excuse me, in the anodes. Both of those materials have 10 times the capacity of the anode material graphite utilized today. So if you can harvest the performance of the either of these materials with 10 times the energy storage capacity, you'll see a dramatic jump in the energy density and the performance, or energy by weight and energy by volume. On the right-hand side of the slide, it'll give you an idea in the red oval of where our technology puts the overall specific energy and energy performance of the batteries. And solid state, while elegant technology, is several years off with some very significant technology challenges. And silicon has been developed for 10 years, and the leading companies that are out there are not in mainstream commercialization because of cost, complexity of manufacturing, and still limited performance. Next slide, please. So the innovation that Psionic Energy has is both a high capacity silicon anode design and an advanced performance electrolyte that essentially delivers lower cost up to 30% below what the state of the art is, higher performance up to about a 50% jump in energy density, greater safety by mitigating the cell-to-cell propagation, and most importantly, a very seamless fit into the existing materials process and manufacturing infrastructure of lithium ion. Next slide, please. Well, one of the novel aspects of our innovation is when you use high capacity silicon, it expands to 300% more than its normal state as it's charged and discharged. We've controlled that expansion to less than 11% at the electrode level, which means the battery expands less than 5% on a full scale. Next slide, please. The translation in terms of its performance, if you take a Tesla Model 3 long range, and you keep the range the same, excuse me, you'll wind up with the same, in the same battery format, 35% lower cost and 27% lower weight. If you want to fill the entire pack and use the extended range, you'll get 33% more range and still 12% more cost. So you go from a little over 300 miles to about 460-mile range. Next slide, please. This is a comparative of solid state technology and traditional technology. Excuse me, and you'll see that volumetrically, the impact that we have with high capacity silicon exceeds the potential impact that they'll have with energy density and solid state, and obviously dramatically more favorable than traditional lithium ion in the market today. Next slide, please. In comparison to the silicon technologies that are out there, 2 points, the closest silicon material that compares to ours is 6 times more expensive. And we deliver 60% more performance than any of the silicon materials out there today. Next slide, please. The path to market is in specialty aviation markets, consumer electronics, then automotives, and then the grid. We're pursuing the first 3 markets in parallel and getting preliminary attraction and funded cell development currently. Next slide, please.
30-second warning.
These are some of the partnerships and funded development project companies that we're working with. Next slide, please. And so it's the next generation, low cost, higher safety, very rapid path to commercialization. Will be in volume production in fourth quarter 2022. Thank you, and I'll entertain any questions.
Hi, this is Bob, Christopher, Diamond Edge Ventures. I have a lot of questions, but I'll take it offline with you. I'll email you a follow-up.
Okay.
But I've looked at a lot of silicon anode battery tech companies, including a company in Seattle called Group 14, which is using a graphene wrapper to basically protect the silicon from cracking through its lithiation process. They have quite a bit of funding and such. I'm just curious how you are, first of all, how you're different, but then how do you get that kind of energy capacity when your lithiation process only is a 5% gain in swelling of the actual size of the silicon? Where does the energy go? I'm just curious how's the math work out in that equation?
Yeah, that's a question. Allow me to take that offline with my CTO, but the expansion doesn't necessarily gate the energy capacity of the anode. Again, let's follow that one up in much more detail with the CTO. I'm familiar with Group 14. I did a deep dive on them several years ago, so I can speak more specifically to that. Okay.
Okay, I'll email you as a follow-up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, this is Robert with Activate and also with Impact Science Ventures. You mentioned having volume production by Q4 of next year. Just curious, what are you producing right now, and what do you consider to be volume production by end of next year?
Oh, volume production will be first generation volume production for the aviation and Department of Defense batteries, and that'll be in the 10 to 20,000 unit a month range. We are building prototype cells currently, and in Q4, we'll be offering 21,700 cells for market evaluation. And depending on the market we go to, the evaluation is anywhere from 3 months to 2 years. And so preliminary traction will be in consumer electronics and in the aviation and Department of Defense markets. That answer your question?
That's it, thank you. follow-up question is, you had a slide showing a bunch of bigger companies that had, it looked like you had partnerships. Do you have signs? Are these, JDA agreements? Are they signed offtake agreements? Just curious, like where these conversations are.
Yeah, we have both two of those companies are strategics. They've signed term sheets. They're in diligence for investment. As part of their investments, they have right of first offer, not right of first refusal, but right of first offer for JDAs. And then independent of those, we have 3 global automotive companies that have requested, and we have issued joint development proposals for early custom design valuation cells.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ed.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Next up is Target Arm, and presenting will be Jeffrey McChesney, who's founder and CEO. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi, Josh. Can you see me okay? Yeah. Go presentation mode on that, please. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeff McChesney. I'm a CEO and founder of a company called Target Arm, and we have a device that I'm going to show you today, which enables the launch recovery of both rotary and fixed wing drones from any moving vehicle. We can do that autonomously, and we can do it at high speeds already at over 65 miles per hour. So let me show you why we want to be doing this. Next slide. Okay. If you could go to the movie, please. People across the world are in transit more and more every year. In addition, digital networks now connect people in all modes of transportation. But why can't our physical world connect to us as well? With the massive proliferation of autonomous drones, why can't we have things delivered to us while we're going somewhere? Those are good questions. I'm Jeff McChesney, CEO and founder of Target Arm, and I can answer them. We can. For aerial drones, the big problem is about the last inches of delivery. It's really difficult to land on something moving until now. This is Tular. Our simple but elegant device launches and recovers both rotary and fixed wing drones autonomously from any moving vehicle, train, bus, ship, or even an airplane. Imagine the possibilities, from package delivery to oil and gas, to first responders, to the military, and even to airplanes. Here you can see a fully automatic Tular recovering a drone and how the pin array actually works. And here you can see a fully autonomous drone and fully automatic Tular working in perfect unison for a hands-free recovery. Also, please note how Tular automatically launches a fully autonomous drone and how its station keeps with Tular prior to exiting on a mission. Okay, thank you. Back to slides, please. Okay, so the key component to this is it's both rotary and fixed wing drones, and I'll tell a little bit more about that as we go forward. Next slide, please. We're dual use capable, both commercial and military. As you saw in the presentation, we've got the package delivery solution. That's our first solution. We're at MVP on our package delivery solution, although the airspace in the United States is not yet open up. And then we've got the military aspects associated with it, both on the ground and in the air. And we've got initial target markets of oil rigs and wind farms, both in the lower corners, where we've got already traction outside the 12-mile limit outside the United States. Next slide, please. Our total addressable market just in the United States is $22 billion that we've modeled on 2 specific industries, the military being at $5 billion TAM with 200,000 combat vehicles, and for the package delivery market, a $17 billion TAM with 600,000 and growing delivery vehicles with a direct sales model here in the United States. Next slide, please. There's no other competing technology which comes even close to what we're doing. We own the upper right quadrant by ourselves. Taking a look at the 2 axes, you look at being able to operate at speed, and we're already at over 65 miles per hour and going higher, and being drone agnostic and being able to not just use rotary wing vertical landing, but also horizontal landing, both with rotary and fixed wing. And virtually all the money is being spent down in the bottom left-hand quadrant for rotary wing and vertical landing only, and not being able to handle the in-transit operations, which basically half the world's doing. We've done strategic agreements that are listed here that start opening up the drone capabilities in the market for us so that we can accelerate in faster. Next slide, please. We've got deep industry experience on our staff, me included, aeronautical engineer, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, with computer science and deep sales and startup experience. I'm a former combat pilot flying F-15s for the United States Air Force. Next slide, please. Our timing is perfectly aligned with the marketplace. What we've decided to do is, and we're executing on it, is going after military contracts because of the airspace restrictions are not applicable. Then as the airspace starts opening up here in the United States, as well as other nations across the globe, heading into the oil and gas, which has a very demanding need for inspection capability, and then eventually into the package delivery market, we're hoping by the end of this year and early next year. And our production schedule and technology schedule follows that as well. We're fully patented here in the United States for our technology as well. Next slide, please. We've gained significant traction. We've had 5 DoD, Department of Defense, Small Business Innovation Research, and Small Technology Transfer Research contracts. We're currently completed 4 of those. We're currently executing a phase 2 for the fixed wing capability for the nuclear munitions convoy protection for the United States Air Force. We've also had a contract with BAE Systems for R&D contract working for the Army to put it on the Stryker armored personnel carrier. Next slide, please. What we're looking at right now is a C2 investment, which I'm currently in. If you take a look at my revenue growth that we're looking at right now, it accelerates quite rapidly. This is a model that we built upon that is quite oriented around a SaaS model. I've got previous startup experience working with SaaS companies as well, and I've designed our gross margin, our EBITDA, along the same way. We've already got significant cash built up with generating revenue with 13 months of cash, and we've got 14 months of backlog as of today. Next slide, please.
30-second warning.
And that's it. I'm Jeff McChesney, and we're in the middle of a $2 million raise, and thanks for the warning.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question. So
sure.
I actually run a joint venture with one of the companies listed on your slide deck.
Awesome.
Focused on last mile package delivery, small UAS, all that good stuff. So I'm curious, who in the commercial space, what do you see your path to market, right? Because you have to, is it the drone manufacturer? Is it the vehicle manufacturer? Because I'm living and breathing type certifying a small UAS right now.
Yep.
And it's all about the ConOps. And so I'm curious how do you see your path to that market? Because you kind of have to work with both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to work with both. So I will tell you right now, we've been approached by 2, I can't name them, OEMs for vehicles. These are car manufacturers and truck manufacturers. So they're already talking about, and I mean, Ford put a press release out a couple of years ago that they wanted to put them on Ford F-150s. 3 oil and gas companies have approached us independently in the West Texas Permian Basin to put our capability on a Ford F-150. So actually, they're naming the actual vehicle that they want it on. I can't name the companies that we're dealing with. So what's happening right now is the manufacturers of ground vehicles and military vehicles. They're going to be partners of ours, right? They're going to say, okay, how do we integrate with Tular? How do we bolt it on? How do we embed it? What do we do with it? Same thing goes with drone manufacturers, because we're not a drone company and we're not a car manufacturing company either. We're the enabling device that sits between those two. And so with drone manufacturers, what we have is a certification model. Think of Intel inside. You're going to have Tular capable drone manufacturers. We're currently certifying the first drone company, which is Greenside Ag out of Boston. We met them at the TechStars Accelerator of the Air Force Accelerator we were in as well. So, excuse me, they're currently certifying right now the first drone, and then the other ones will come in over time as well. So we'll open it up and we'll work with them. We'll certify them, and then they'll be able to go to market with the capability, and then the business models can lay on top of that of the solutions.
One more quick question. Do you have an idea, do you have a feel for how long it takes the US to allow you to take off and land on a moving platform? Because their regulations are super restrictive right now to very defined routes and risk mitigation techniques.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the airspace in the United States for package delivery is it's not open, right? I mean, it's a restricted airspace. It's a limited use capabilities today, but it's coming. The drumbeat is too great. It's pounding right now, where people are wanting to be connected in transit, and you're going to want to get faster delivery in your supply chains. And so you don't want to disconnect from your shipping as it's waiting to come into port, from your trains to your buses to people in cars to military vehicles to even to airplanes. Our current contract right now that we're under with an STTR with MIT is for the Air Force to put it onto a cargo airplane. So we're moving in multiple directions simultaneously, but it's going to take time for the public to accept it and the processes and procedures to be defined.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone last question for Jeffrey McChesney?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Miller Ogan, Snowball Capital. Jeff, how does this differ from Workhorse's Horsefly? Because I believe it's very similar, especially for in-transit delivery, but they don't have the capture. It syncs with the vehicle. Yep. And it lands without a capture device.
So I've spent a lot of time talking to the advanced development group at UPS, and in particular for this Horsefly solution. They are a stationary solution. So on my competitive chart, they're in the bottom left corner too. So what they've got for a ConOps design is that they would end up stopping, launching a drone, possibly driving someplace else, stopping, waiting for the drone to come back, waiting for it to land, then get moving again. We don't have to stop at all. You don't even have to get out of the vehicle. And one of the key components, Taylor, that I want everybody to understand in the package delivery market is when you have a driver stopping 150 times a day and getting out and getting back in, that's one efficiency model, right? Now take it where they don't have to get out at all and they can deliver. That's an increase of 3 times the productivity. Now they're only working 1/3 of the day. Take the driver off of there and being able to work autonomous. Now you get a 9 times in productivity improvement out of that vehicle. And that's where we're heading with package delivery.
So if their technology catches up.
Taylor's question, only because he named some stuff that I'm near and dear to my heart. I understand you can take off and land from the moving vehicle, right? But how do you reload the next package? Because the driver has to do that.
Yeah, so we're developing right now the handoff mechanism that works inside Tular, inside of a vehicle or inside of a cargo airplane. So inside of an autonomous vehicle, we're designing the handoff capability to put the drone in and back out. And then the next phase that we're going to design is the conveyor system and the stowage system and the reloading of packages or payloads or fuel or whatever you need to be doing as well. So there's a series of Tular works. It's MVP. We're working on the feeder mechanism next, and then we'll work on the actual internal system for conveyance and assembly after that. I'm sorry, Taylor, I think you may have a question as well.
Yeah, just if the technology catches up where drones can land on moving objects without, they're just synchronous, what happens to your product? Is there some advantage that you have that, let's say DJI has some kind of transmitter in every vehicle that it can perfectly fly along with it and land?
Yeah, so aerodynamically, this is the problem for most people is that you can get two things to be together and you can actually vertically land on it at coast speed. As soon as it touches, it blows right back off. So the issue is once you get above 15 miles per hour or so, it depends on how it's actually done. If you don't actually grab it and hold it, that thing is gone, especially when you get up to speeds at highway speeds that we're operating at 65 and heading to 150 to 200 knots on board airplanes. You've got to be able to constrain it easily and efficiently and reliably at high cycle rates, which is what we've designed to do. So could you actually touch down on top of a vehicle at high speed? Yes, but you're gone. Just put something on top of your car and start driving away and see what happens. It's the exact same concept.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeffrey McChesney.
Thank you, everybody.
Target Arm. We're now joined by Eric Ju Kim from Dot Incorporated. Special award for everybody coming today. Eric's at 5:20 a.m. because he's based out of South Korea. He's already in the future. He's tomorrow, as far as we're concerned. So Eric, thanks for joining us, especially at this very early hour for you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eric, CEO of Dot. I'll share screen. Okay, it's all nice to meet you. DOT is the global leader in developing the most unique technologies to help disabled people around the world. I'm Eric Jun Kim. I studied in University of Washington in Seattle, and I was one of the 30 under 30 Forbes Asia in social entrepreneurs. We are a social impact company and heavily invested in patent. So we have over 100 patents globally, and we raised so far $11 million as a Series B. So what I want to cover today is about smart city for all. Smart city is a growing market, as you guys know, but there is a part for inclusivity, which is giving full accessibility in every core services for disabled people, elderly people, and foreigner people. And this is really weak point for every smart city so far. And smart building alone is $66 billion market, but actually, if you see this inclusive part, there's so many lawsuits against this smart building. And in terms of the ADA law, every disabled people have a right to feel equal enjoyment in every buildings. And right now lawsuit is growing really rapidly. Every year about 30%. That is only one company decreased this kind of things. We realize that old infra really doesn't help special needs. And if you see that as data, it's about 30% of population in total. So we are creating DOT IoT infra. It's actually barrier-free smart city for all people. And DOT can make any public institution as the ranking #1 in inclusivity. And as you guys know, pandemic also makes non-face-to-face infrastructures. And this has actually happened same for the disabled people too.
The first step we have taken towards guaranteeing mobility rights for all is launching DOT Kiosk.
DOT Kiosk integrates the DOT display with a range of other accessibility technologies to create an inclusive information delivery system.
So as you just saw, we have the most accessible kiosk for the world. And we have the most high standard above the ADA. We have the digital tactile display, which is the first way of blind people can see actual digital map for the first time. And there's a sign language AI supported, AI voice supported, all the highest standard functions are here. And not just that, we have DOT Inside navigation, which is here we can see we actually put it in one of the biggest subway station in South Korea. We decreased normally, like, if you want to cover entire subway station area, you need more than 100 beacons. But with our technology, we decrease it by 5 beacons to cover entire subway station area. It's a big area. And with this, we actually made this kind of inside navigation app. We can track exact location in every spaces. So most dramatical case for this, blind person, before our technology, he could not find even toilet, but with our technology, he can go wherever he wants to go. And this is same, this applies for any citizens or any elderly people, any disabled people. And also we have .go AI.
I've been dealing with all kinds of expensive tools, all for different situations.
.go is here to change that. A free smartphone app for the visually impaired that can detect objects in the distance.
Person in 1.8 meters.
And connect them to action.
Branded for gate very far away. Taking a picture.
Any object can be connected to any action. Painting.
Blaues Pferd ein.
Can tell you a story.
Blaues Pferd ist der Bildtitel eines.
A bus stop.
Timetable.
Can give you your connection and ticket.
You will arrive at 7:07 p.m.
A product.
Barcode.
Can remove itself from.
So like this, with our accessible kiosk in Inside AI, we can make any infrastructures and city in the world ranking #1 in inclusivity. We are the most advanced tech leader in this place. And in Tractions, we have $20 million contract with one of the city in South Korea. We're implementing this technology in 114 subway stations so far. And we're expanding this solution in France, Hong Kong, and Dubai. Not just that, we are expanding this to any kind of government building right now. As you can see, Federation of Persons with Disability in South Korea, we are implementing our systems, and also like, I think maybe you guys know Gangnam Style, and this is most crowded area, and we are putting in the district offices. So we are looking for strongest partner in each country, and I know that US is the way to go, and we are actively looking any partners and any investment or any kind of joint venture opportunity in the US right now. Thank you for listening. We really dream of a world where truly everyone enjoys and fulfill their lives.
Hi, Eric. This is Robert from Activate. Great presentation. Thank you. Curious, what is your ideal partner for working in the US? Like, who is your ideal partner for JV or getting your product into market?
Well, the first important point is who want to gain revenue in this unique market. This is really new market in terms of smart city. Many smart city, many categories of smart city market is already developed, but this market is really new, and I would say it's gold mine. So think about it. Any public building can be our customers, and we can make a subscription model right now for every buildings, and this is highly profitable market. So we are looking for any organizations or any companies who want to develop with us. And if they have specialties in B2G, like government side, it would be really nice. Yeah, we're looking for that. And we are collaborating with a lot of universities right now. For example, ASU, Arizona State University, we are collaborating with one of the professors in there to develop the most highest standard that can apply in any states in the US. So yeah, we're actively looking for any kinds of partnerships.
Hey, Eric, Adam from Mobile. Quick question here. Just a clarification question, actually. Did we saw two different products? We have the kiosk, and then we have the .go, which is actually an app. Is that correct? Great.
Right.
Can you maybe elaborate a bit?
It's actually all combining, yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit on the .go competition? First question, and second, are you considering a go-to-market approach of where you're just servicing the capability and software to other vendors and not necessarily via your application?
Well, in terms of technology, we've been focusing on this AI, graphic recognition area for a long time, and we are applying this to many blind people right now, and in Europe also actively using our technology. So I think this is all about the data, and we are a free platform, so many people liked it. And our competition in this area actually charge a lot of cost for customers. But our strategy right now is just give free platform that can recognize any kind of images and graphics, and we connect that to the actions. So it's not just about recognizing, we're more like making AI automation process. And this is like, you can just think of like the library, and if you go, like, for example, like a certain airport, any blind person can download that library and he can use it for the navigation purpose and getting information purpose. And to answer your second questions, is that we are also looking for that, but right now we think that the inclusivity market alone is really highly profitable, and we see a lot of opportunities right now. So we are focusing on this industry right now. But of course, we are looking for any other opportunity that collaborate with the mobility size and everything. But right now we are focusing on this public, inclusive infrastructures right now.
Are you maybe familiar with ORCAM? company?
Yeah, Orcam, we know well.
Yeah, okay.
And you know, as you know, or you know, if you know Orcam, it's the glasses alone is more than $2,000, and I know there's like a MyMe, but this still cost, you know, but like you know, the way that we want to apply is for really everyone, and we want to go to market really fast. So we are in free platform. Rather than that, we charge to businesses and governments. So basically, citizens can enjoy technology, but we actually charge it to the government and infrastructures.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. From Dot Incorporated. Last but certainly not least, Victor Durolfi from RoboTire. Hey, Victor.
Hey, guys.
We'll cue the slides and
well, that's not the first slide. So can we go to the first slide, please? Keep going. Keep going. Okay, so hi, guys. My name is Victor Durolfi with RoboTire. RoboTire's mission is to automate vehicle maintenance. So we're starting with tires. Next slide. So in general, how many of you guys have waited for over an hour to get a set of 4 tires changed? If you raised your hand, you're not alone, because the industry average is 60+ minutes. And the reason for this is due to the lack of technicians to do the work. This has only gotten worse during the pandemic, plus will continue to get worse with the electrification of vehicles, because EVs burn through tires 30% faster than a commercial combustion engine. So how do you solve this? Next slide. We solve this one by using robots, so we can change a set of 4 tires in 10 minutes, but by making a network of connected auto service centers. The network meaning robot to robots can talk. So if you get serviced in Michigan and drive to California, we know everything about that tire, your vehicle, and all that. Plus, the robots being connected to the connected car, meaning that we know when the vehicle needs to get serviced. The vehicle talks to us, and we schedule everything for you to make it seamless. Next slide. So how the robots work. If you can click on that, that'd be great. If not, you guys can go to our website later on and watch the robots in action. But basically, there's jump ahead about halfway for me, please.
Now a reality.
We went too far, but you get the gist that there's 4 robots. We use vision to identify lug nuts. We ingest every information about the vehicle based on VIN scan. And we'll do the full change. And between our machine learning models, vision, and everything, we can handle any vehicle on the road in the US right now. We also do integration with Hunter to do it. Right now, we can do full changes, tire rotation, and full assembly swaps. You can jump back to the slide deck to save time. If you want to watch it, it's on our website. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there. Right now, this year alone, we've already done 1.3 million in revenue. We have shops live. We have some big name customers like Discount Tire. We're deploying 13 this year and going to deploy 100 next year. We just closed our Series A round of funding. But what you saw, next slide please, is our in-base solution that we sell to customers. We're also bringing out our standalone brick and mortar to kind of change people's mindset of how to get vehicle serviced, meaning guaranteed appointment scheduling. Plus, these centers will be turned on overnight to do fleet servicing while after hours. Next slide. And that first store will be live in Michigan later this year. However, RoboTire's bigger vision is not the brick and mortar. It is creating the centralized network for autonomous vehicles where the autonomous vehicle will drive to us, get serviced, and back in your driveway before you wake up. So how do you do that, right? Building brick and mortars sucks, time consuming, and a lot of permits. Next slide. Here comes RoboTire's containers. So these containers can be dropped in any parking lot. So where's that large Amazon fleet of vehicles? Or where are all those ghost kitchens going for the DoorDash drivers to pick up? Parking lots. What are happening with malls? They're converting. So RoboTire is here to bring our own automated service centers that can be drop shipped anywhere around the world and set up in a matter of days. be fully on grid or off grid. Next slide. So what we're looking to do is deploy these containers in cities to service existing customers that are there and newer. We're doing some other partnerships, some other big tech groups with the autonomous vehicle. So we're looking for places to drop these. Any questions? Oh, and that's us. So myself, my co-founder, and we got some heavy hitter advisors on our board. So I think that's it. And I can take questions. No need to go to the other couple slides.
Start off with the first question, Victor.
Sure.
And then anybody has a question afterwards can ask it. So you started with, from what I understand, you started with the robotic, tackling the robotic problem. And then at this point, we're talking already about the future with the autonomous synchronized system where your car knows to check itself in for for a tire transfer or a tune-up or whatever. How far away are we realistically from that reality?
We are rough. Well, depends on what you are. You're probably about a year out. There's stuff that we're doing with the Army, with their vehicles to solve that. And then there's a few other aspects we're doing with a few other startups I can't make mention of with connecting to their vehicle and scheduling all of that from that side.
Very cool. Very cool.
So this is Bob Christopher, Diamond Edge Ventures. How much time do you save per car, or I should say per wheel?
Per car, again, we take it from a 60-minute task down to 10. So per wheel, we're roughly about 4.5 minutes because we have 2 sets of robots on either side. That's how we can get under 10 for a set of 4, by the way we stack everything up. The main powerhouse, one, is that our robots don't take breaks. They can run 24/7. They don't come hungover. They don't workman comp issues, et cetera, right? And especially nowadays when you have the choice of changing a tire, driving for Uber, or flipping a burger, it's very hard for shops to find technicians to do this work.
How about balancing and rotating tires? Is that, how does it fit into your equation?
Balancing, we integrate with Hunter Engineering, so we utilize their machines, but we completely take over and control that. Our robots put the sticky weights on inside of it once we ingest the information back from Hunter. Rotations, we handle it. The robots will handle it and pass the tires to each other, depending on which way you're doing. Are you doing across, front, back? And again, a lot of that comes down to our vision services that can detect any information. So a bunch of OCR detection on the tire, DOT, inner, outer, TPMS, pressure, name it, and I can read it on a tire.
So you're using computer vision for identifying the tires and the wheels. So yep. you have a ontology of images of different tires and wheel sets, and you built that over time, because that's going to be the big long pole in the tent, is building your libraries and labeling the data. So do you have a lot of that already?
Yeah,
built?
We've been doing that for the past 1.5 years. So we got our start in an auto shop almost a year ago and have been taking pictures of, I'll tell you, some really crazy stuff, right? To catch all the edge cases. But yeah, our data model is huge right now.
I'm sure it is. Just curious, what underlying platform are you using to do your computational modeling? What is your computer vision system?
Well, we've homegrown some of it, but the base model is like we use YOLO and TensorFlow. I can't go into too much because the real secret sauce is how we're taking all of that data and turning it into robot code. So the robot knows where the vehicle is in space and where it's about, right?
Yep. Nice. That's a big math problem right there.
It is. Now talk about plane, right? So we'll also bring out, like I said, we start with tires. We're going to do alignments. We're going to do brakes. We're going to do suspension. That's all in the works. We didn't cover it, but we already have an Air Force contract to do, any vehicle on an airport. We've got forklifts, big rigs, name it, we can do it as long as it has a tire.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, any last question for Victor? Okay, well, thank you very much, Victor. That last company was RoboTire. Thank you for everybody who participated in the event. Starting with our panelists, Bob Christopher from Diamond Edge Ventures, Reese Schroeder from Allstate Strategic Ventures, from Arizona Commerce Authority, had to jump off a little bit early, but Dominique Papa, Harry Meyer from the city of Mesa, from Mobileye, Adam Weiss, from Snowball Capital, Taylor Rogan, Robert Ethier from Activate, Jeff Errett from Aircraft, Charles Crofer from Siemens Digital Industry Software, and Cassandra Carruthers from People Investments. Thank you so much for everybody who participated. For the companies, for this last session, I won't go through all 16 pitching companies, but we had Cognata, eLink Air, Psionic Energy, Target Arm, Dot Incorporation, and last, RoboTire. So thank you everybody who participated in the event. It was an excellent event. Technologies were incredible. I'm connected to these companies, and so I get to learn about them a little bit ahead of time. And the amazing part is to hear about them in the presentations. Still blows my mind. So great. We're really excited to see the future developments that are coming from your companies. And thank you for our panelists for all your wise questions and for your engagement with the startups here on the platform as well as after. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.